Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Awaken his sacred gear earlier and becomes the Crimson Purgatory Dragon Part 3. Before we start, please go support ShinjiHimejima for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Dragon vs Phoenix Part. 1. The Cult Club. Issei. Before I answer you, tell me, where is your entourage? Rias. While pulling on his cigarette. Rias. Kiba had a contract to make. Kaneko and Kiryu were sent to do a club task. Why? Issei. Nothing interesting. I thought you were going to be here present, but well, let's change the subject, but not before offering you an apology. Akeno-san for the kiss while bowing. Akeno. Issei-kun, you don't have to apologize, we know that you wanted that just like me, although she said the last thing jokingly, while putting on her funny smile and touching her cheek. Issei. Haha, of course I wanted it, and I really have to say that you have an exquisite taste, while licking his lips, that I would like to continue tasting. Akeno, upon hearing it, only blushed at what Issei said. Issei. Well, changing things, everything I did was fully prepared, the awesome entrance that I would have preferred as a hero, making Razor angry and challenging me to a duel, and I think so, everything else was by myself. Well, his cigar disappeared in particles of purple light. Rias. Okay, by the way Issei, why do you have a different appearance? While looking him up and down. Issei. This while pointing at himself. Let's say it's an ability that I have, so I can change my appearance without problems. Rias. Wow, I didn't know that, but don't you think it's going to be strange that you come different? Issei. Oh, don't worry, really only the hair and eyes change, and a little bit the facial features, but with just my voice, you will be able to recognize me, but well, I will be with Sona for the moment, and by the way, tell Kiba today we can have our duel. When classes end. Without further ado, I will leave. While leaving the room. Leaving Rias and Akeno, who was still blushing and who seemed to be having lustful thoughts. Supernatural world. Underworld. While that was happening at the academy, in the underworld in an office was the white-haired girl wearing a maid outfit that looked pretty good on her. Well, she was telling everything that happened in the occult club to a red-haired man who was sitting behind a desk, while he had several piles of skins around the office. That would be all while he had a serene face and was leaning on his chair, while receiving a nod from the white-haired girl in response. Well, that boy or dragon, as you said, must have some kind of relationship with Rias, but thanks to him, he saved us from a bit of trouble, and from me getting involved in my sister's engagement. But what did they bet on? Mr. Razor asked as a reward if he won the females he had like Rias and Akeno, but he asked in exchange for a game of evil pieces, the breaking of Miss Ria's engagement and Mr. Razor's sister, although he chose at random and ended up choosing his sister, who for the moment he does not know, where Mr. Razor accepted without a doubt, and that they would face each other in 2 weeks. Interesting, really interesting. Hahaha, a battle between mythological beings, the flames of a dragon against those of a phoenix while leaning on his chair, a phenomenal battle. Haha, I already want to see what happens. Human World Kuo Academy, Student Council. We can see an Issei entering the Student Council too calmly without knocking, in addition to attracting the attention of Sona and Tsubaki, who were the only ones in the room, who when they saw who entered found it strange, until he lay down on the sofa that was in the room. Sona. Excuse me, but who are you? While leaving the paperwork she was doing to look where the boy who entered was. Issei. You really don't recognize your fiancé So-chan? While he continued lying down with his eyes closed, while Sona upon hearing that turned red as a tomato and realized just like Tsubaki who he was. Sona. Seriously, it's you, Ice-kun. While trying to control her blush, why didn't you attend the academy today? Issei. I don't really know, but I wanted to talk to you about something, but that would be after classes end, so in the meantime I came to spend time with you and Tsu-chan. While Tsubaki blushed at how he called her. Sona. Well, I don't have a problem with you being here, but I think you're going to take a nap first, right? Issei. Yes, I hope you don't mind me not helping you today, but I need to rest for a moment. While he settled into the sofa. And so time passed wherein Issei was sleeping, while Sona was working with Tsubaki, until they finally ended where Sona asked Tsubaki to take the papers to keep at the address. Thus leaving only a Sona in the room with an Issei sleeping on the sofa, where Sona stayed watching our protagonist while he slept, until she decided to get up from her seat and slowly approached our protagonist. Until she was in front of him, where she looked at him for a while where he was sleeping peacefully, where she decided to get on the same level as he was sleeping and tried to calm his breathing that had become agitated, and he had a little blush. Sona. I don't know if what I'm going to do now is right or wrong, but I really want to do it. While looking at Issei's face, specifically his lips. And she began to slowly approach Issei where Sona was getting closer and closer, and the blush she had began to grow, where she began to feel Issei's breathing brush against hers, where she just closed her eyes, ready to fulfill her goal until. Issei. I wish you had asked me in person, where Sona heard Issei's voice and was scared and quickly separated from him to leave the space between the two of them. Sona. Issei, it's not what you think. While she saw Issei sitting down, although she was still blushing hard because she was discovered. Issei. You seriously look really beautiful from this position. Sona, hearing that, just looked away, while Issei just leaned on his knee and gave Sona a smile. So that later our protagonist got up from his place and approached Sona to offer her his hand so she could get up, where she kept looking at the hand until she accepted it, getting up from the ground, where she continued to look away. Issei, seeing that, only approached her to grab her by the waist. Sona, feeling Issei's hands on her waist, only turned redder than she already was. Issei. You know, I have no problem if you had done it before. While with one hand he gently grabbed her chin so that she would turn to look at him. You are a really beautiful girl, Sona. I would like to always be by your side to admire your beauty. While Issei began to gently caress her cheek, where Sona was looking at Issei's eyes that were now a purple color with hints of red, and he also looked at Sona's beautiful eyes, accompanied by her glasses that made her look more beautiful. Issei. Also, I would like to try those beautiful lips you have, while grabbing her cheeks. Sona. Issei, while Sona just closed her eyes and slowly approached Issei, who upon seeing that, only fulfilled his whim, which was to take Sona's lips. Until after a while they separated, without saying anything, just staying hugged, enjoying the warmth that each one transmitted, and they would have continued like that, but they were interrupted by the ringing of the bell that ended classes, where Issei knew it was time to have his confrontation with Kiba. Where he told Sona about his duel to ask her if she would accompany him, where she accepted since she wanted to know the skills he had, or at least his sword handling. Upon leaving the student council, by chance they met Momo, Ria and Kiryu, who seemed like they were going to head to the parking lot to go to the Issei house. When they saw him they were surprised, since they had not seen him during all the time at the academy, until now that he left the student council, where they began to attack him with questions, where only Kiryu stayed away from the bombardment of questions and scoldings from Issei's two current partners. Where Issei just limited himself to listening until after a while, he just asked them if they wanted to accompany him to the occult club to have his confrontation no homo with Kiba, where they remained silent for a moment until they accepted, and thus continuing their walk, where Issei was walking next to some beauties heading to the occult club. When they arrived at the building of said club, Ria's entire entourage was outside waiting for them, where Kiba was smiling when he saw Issei no homo. As Ria's approached, she gave Issei a pamphlet where she told him that with that pamphlet he could get to where his meeting with Razor would be in 2 weeks. So then the two groups headed to the back of the building so that Issei and Kiba could have their confrontation without problems, where Issei decided to create a barrier in case they were seen. Issei. Well, I think we can start our duel, while walking away from the group to a certain point, right? Kiba. Of course, Issei-kun. While he walked until he was in front of Issei with a certain distance separating them. So let's begin. Sword birth. Well, a sword appeared in his right hand and he got into a fighting stance. Issei just put on a smile and then invoked in Tetsu Kurigane style and got into position, thus starting a sword fight. Where the two stood still without taking their eyes off each other, as if they were analyzing them and were waiting for an attack to be made, while the Gremory group and the group that was accompanying Issei waited for them to make an attack. In addition to that, Issei was the one who had the most attention, since they had never seen him fight, and this could be a moment to see it. Until Kiba disappeared in a blur of speed and the sound of metal clashing was heard, where a Kiba appeared on Issei's left side while he was blocking Kiba's sword. So that he could use his Kiba speed again and disappear in a blur of speed and try to attack Issei from behind with a diagonal cut, where Issei quickly turned around to face Kiba, where Issei only dodged the sword to quickly knee him in the stomach, making Kiba step back from lack of air as he tried to regain his breath, while Issei was only holding his sword with only one hand, waiting for Kiba to recover. Kiba. Why didn't you attack me when you had the chance? While he got back into battle stance. Issei. Very easy, neither you nor I are fighting seriously, and what I really want is to see your potential as a swordsman, not that we have a child's game. If you were to do this in a battle with another swordsman stronger than you could end up dead, hasn't your mentor told you? Kiba. You're right, I apologize for my ignorance, and of course he also told me that I could end up dead, so I will fight with all my strength. Issei. Haha, that's what I wanted to hear, while giving a smile, so get ready because I will do it too, or so I think, haha. When Issei finished saying that, he quickly launched himself at Kiba to start throwing slashes, where he could block them without problems until in a block, Kiba tried to kick him to his side to unbalance him. Where Issei saw Kiba's intention and just stepped back so that Kiba could later take advantage of that and launch a direct attack, where Issei dodged again, where Kiba didn't stop there and continued with his attack, launching attacks left and right, where Issei dodged them and blocked some. Until at one point where Issei collided his sword with Kiba's and made him step back with a push he made with the sword so that he began to attack Kiba anyway, where Kiba got a little complicated and ended up with not so severe cuts, in addition to realizing that Issei was using a few of his movements. Where Kiba stepped back keeping a distance between them until Issei was going to launch himself again, but was stopped when Kiba stuck his sword into the ground and swords began to come out of the ground in the direction of Issei, where only our protagonist stepped back and Kiba took the opportunity to create another sword to grab it with his free hand, while our protagonist just smiled seeing him. Issei. Our duel was fun, but I think it's time for this to end, fourth secret sword Shinkaru, while saying everything in a low voice so that no one would hear him. When Issei finished saying that, an image or a clone of himself appeared next to him as they ran towards Kiba who was waiting for them, but more clones of Issei continued to appear in the direction of Kiba. Until they got close enough as the clones separated to attack Kiba and prepare their attack against Kiba, but the next thing was that before they arrived, Kiba made a complete turn on his own axis, dispersing the clones in an attack, and quickly dispersed the air that accumulated around him, but he could not do anything else. Dealing a sword that was threatening his neck, thus ending the encounter between Issei and Kiba. While far away from there with the Gremory group and the others, they were surprised by how little Issei showed, since it was noticeable that he was holding back, but the little he showed left them surprised. Issei. Haha, you really have good control over your sword, but you need to improve more. While he moved Intetsu away from his neck and then it disappeared. You also have a good sacred gear, which is the sword birth that is capable of creating multiple swords. Kiba. Thank you, I owe it all to my teacher who is the one who has taught me since I became the Knight of Ria's Gremory. Issei. Well, that would be all, I hope we have a duel again, Kiba. Well, he approached Kiba and extended a fist to him. Kiba. Yes, I still hope we have another duel. While he bumped his fist with Issei's. Issei. Well, the two approached the others. It's time to go, we have things to do. Well, the barrier disappeared and they began to make their way to the parking lot, thus leaving the Gremory group. Rias. Issei calling the attention of our protagonist. Thank you. While Issei upon hearing that only gave her a smile, which made her blush, and she resumed her journey. Kaneko. But you. Well, Ria's turn to look at her. I also want to have a confrontation with Issei senpai. Guo Academy parking. We can see Issei and the beautiful ladies accompanying him arrive at the parking lot. When they arrived there were two sports cars that would catch the attention of anyone who knew about cars and a motorcycle that was one of Issei's favorites. Issei's favorite motorcycle was the Kawasaki Ninja H2R, while next to it was another of Issei's vehicles, a McLaren sports car, and it was a really beautiful model for car lovers, the P1, but there was another sports car, and it was a new model that the Bugatti brand had produced, and that model was La Voiture Noire, a really beautiful car. That only surprised Sona because of such an eccentric car that was in the academy along with other vehicles that only the rich of the city could get, but for the others it did not surprise them, since every time they went to train with Issei, they saw the luxurious vehicles that Issei had. Ria. It must be a good time or you must be in a very good mood for you to have brought that car. Issei. Hahaha, I just wanted to give myself a little luxury, plus I wanted to see how this beauty runs, but well, let's go already because we have things to do, so let's go. Sona. Well, the two of them approached La Voiture Noire, while Momo and Ryota the McLaren P1 and Kiryu was approaching the Kawasaki. Where once everyone was near the vehicles, each one got into the vehicle, so that later Kiryu started the Kawasaki, Rya the McLaren and our protagonist La Voiture Noire, which Issei when hearing the engine of La Voiture Noire was music to his ears. So that later he began to accelerate, thus taking the road to the residence of our protagonist, while being followed by a car and a sports motorcycle. Where Issei decided to increase the speed to test the speed that the Bugatti had, which when doing so scared Sona by the speed they were taking, where Issei managed to see the expression that Sona had, well she put on a smile for that and continued driving. Hyoudou residence garage. We can see the car Issei was in entering the garage, leaving it near his Apollo brand car Apollo, so that later the McLaren Rya was in could enter and park it in a free space, and finally the motorcycle Kiryu was in could enter and leave it near the other two motorcycles Issei had. Issei. Well, we arrived while closing the door of the car he came from and turned to see Sona who was looking at the garage in surprise. Hahaha, well, let's go up now, since I need to talk to you, Sona. While receiving her attention and then nodding in response, our protagonist then left his garage while being followed by Sona and the others who were also in the room. Where we can see our protagonist arrive at the living room, where we can see a Drake playing a racing game, where we can see that when the car was turning, Drake tilted the control as if he thought it would go further. While behind him you can see a slightly surprised Sona since Issei did give himself his luxuries, but what did surprise her was the aquarium he had in the living room, since most millionaires or houses of demons would not have that, or well some. Asia. Oh Issei-san, I see you've arrived. As she left the kitchen with an apron on over her nun clothes, I took the trouble to prepare something to eat for you. Issei. Oh Asia-chan while caressing her head, where she just let herself I thank you for doing that for us. While behind there was a surprised Sona to see that there was a nun in Issei's house and that they had a friendship relationship. So then everyone went to the table and a drake came flying to land on a plate where he began to eat while the others watched that amused, although Sona was surprised by the little red dragon that she thought was a familiar that Issei had found. Where everyone said I did Akamasu and tried Asian food that turned out to be very good. Issei. What you prepared is really delicious. Asia-chan while looking at her side where she was, you really will be a great wife. That Asia upon hearing that only blushed until she couldn't anymore and lowered her head. Drag. I agree with you Ibo. Well Drake's head appeared with traces of food. So that everyone could continue eating peacefully and continue enjoying Asian food. Until after a while where everyone finished and Issei offered to wash the plates and cutlery they used, where Asia wanted to help him, but Issei denied it since she had taken the trouble to make the food, where she made a cute pout, but she would not stay with her arms crossed, so she helped take the other missing dishes to the sink. Where our protagonist just rolled up his sleeves and started washing the dishes, while the others, seeing that there was nothing else to do, Kiryu decided to read a book and Momo, Ria, Asia and Drake decided to play Halo Reach. And they learned to play thanks to Issei, where Asia and Drake teamed up and were the red team, while Momo and Ria were the blue team, so that a two-man battle began, two beautiful girls against a pretty nun and a celestial dragon. While Sona was just watching as Momo and Ria were showing another side of themselves that they later showed in the student council, where she decided to enjoy seeing the fish tank that Issei had, where she saw several species of fish that swam here and there calmly. 2,000 years later. Now we can see a Kiryu who put aside her book and decided to join the group they had, where she decided to join the team of Asia and Drake who took turns for deaths to play. Well, a sound caught his attention as to why his servants were screaming, and also because he was hearing on the screen, say double death or murder, where he saw that they were playing a game where you could see guys with armor and helmets where they used lightsabers, pistols that shot laser rays, or a golf club that killed them with an explosion that it made when it collided with something. And she kept watching for a while until Ria saw her where she offered to play where Sona rejected the offer, but Ria didn't care that he was her king and forced her to play where she learned the basics and then took a totally unexpected turn where Sona helped them tip the score. Where now we can see a Sona mercilessly killing Drake's team, where he killed them with whatever he could, with blows, a lightsaber, grenades, a shotgun, a pistol, a sniper, with a golf club. So that later an Issei was seen arriving at the room where he heard the screen say killer, double death, triple death and killing streak and game over, where he found the following scene. We can see Momo, Ria looking at Sona as if they had seen something really supernatural, while Drake, Asia and Kiryu looked at the screen in surprise. Issei. Hahaha, I'll ask what happened here another time, so if it's not a bother, could you come with me? While she got up, she sounded from where she was sitting to approach Issei, and the others get ready, it's time and I won't be long. When he finished saying that he walked towards the second floor while Sona followed him, so that after a while of walking they entered a room that upon entering Sona could notice that it was Issei's office. Where there was the classic stuff you'd find in an office, but here there was a pool table and a shelf where there were various alcoholic beverages. Issei. Well, as he approached the bar and grabbed a glass where he poured some ice and some whiskey, I brought you here because I wanted to talk to you about something besides asking you for a favor. Sona. And what would you like to talk to me about, besides the favor you want me to do for you? Well, Issei took a sip of his drink. Issei. Hahaha, well, I wanted to ask you if you could do me a favor, so that we don't have problems missing the academy for 2 weeks, I mean the four of us, Kiryu, Momo, Ria and of course me. Sona. Well, there wouldn't be a problem with you since in 2 weeks you'll have to face Razor, but why the three of them too? And above all, why is there a nun living with you? Issei. Hahaha, while finishing his whiskey and leaning on his desk while answering your question about Asia, well, to be more summarized, she was unknowingly with a group of fallen angels who would take away her sacred gear, where she would die in the process, and well, I gave her a home as friendship and affection. Oh, don't worry, I also eliminated those who were in the city. Issei. And about your other question, well, I offered to train Kiryu for her sacred gear, but Ria heard that and also asked me to train her, obviously I didn't refuse, and so Momo decided to train her. Sona. Well, I can't complain about anything, so it's okay, there won't be a problem if they're missing, I'll take care of that while watching Issei disappear in a blur. Issei. He while appearing behind Sona and hugging her seriously, thanks, but you should also talk to Tsubaki since you'll be gone for 2 weeks anyway. Sona. Why do you say that? Well, she enjoyed being like this with our protagonist, so that later she felt Issei's breath on her neck. Issei. Because I will really make you mine for 2 weeks. While he told her all that in her ear with a seductive tone and deep voice, which sounds like when she hears it, a shiver runs down her spine, in addition to turning red as a tomato. Issei. Oh well, I wish I did, but no, it's not the time. Oh no, but I also decided to train you. What do you think? You freaked out, right? Sona. Ah, just stop talking nonsense and let me enjoy you for this moment. Well, she launched herself at Issei to give him a kiss on the lips, where Issei only followed the kiss to Sona since she was right. Until after a while they separated, where they stayed hugging each other, enjoying the moment they had alone. Issei. I really would like to stay like this with you, but we have things to do. While he separated from her. Well, I'll be waiting for you in the living room when you're ready to go train with us. While he left his office, leaving Sona in it. Issei, upon going down to the room, found Ria, Momo and Kiryu in the outfits that our protagonist created for them. Well, he was also with them in his nun dress. Is it a dress, right? Issei. Well, we'll have to take some time so Sona can finish whatever she's doing. While he sat on the sofa he had so the others could do the same. Lots of mags late. A while later we see Sona calmly coming down until she got a surprise where she found an Issei sleeping, leaning on the back of the sofa with his arms outstretched, while on her sides were Asia, who was sleeping on top of Issei's leg, using it as a pillow. And on the other side of her, a queen who was sleeping peacefully leaning on her chest, while Momo was sleeping on top of one of queen's legs, who was also using her as a pillow. And finally we finish with a Kiryu who was sleeping head down on the sofa. That sounds like when she saw how they were close to Issei, she only had a face full of jealousy, which she had to keep to herself, since she knew that she had her moments alone with Issei, where she could enjoy his company, where she decided to wake them up better by starting to call them by their names. Where they began to wake up slowly, where Issei, upon waking up, the first thing he saw was Sona looking at him with a look that would make Issei fall in love again like the first time. Issei. Boo. Well, getting up from his seat, it would be time to go. Well, he fixed his clothes so that he could then start walking while being followed by everyone. Where they entered a room that was blank, where Sona found it strange that they entered there, and after a second a light appeared that blinded them, and now instead of the blank room, there was a beautiful forest where they were training previously, which surprised Sona by that. Issei only snapped his fingers to make Momo, Kiryu and Ria disappear, and then they appeared in front of the lake in the forest, trying to keep their balance on a board. Issei. Well, with you two I plan to train you in the field of magic, since Sona you must have a large reserve of magic, and you Asia have a sacred gear, so we need you to be able to master it without problems, or what do you think? Asia. I have no problem with whatever you put on me, Issei-san, but I would also like to learn how to fight without magic. Sona. I think the same thing, Ice. I would also like to learn how to fight. Well, the two were looking at Issei with a determined look. Issei. Well, if that's the case they will also train with the others, but they won't be able to train with those clothes on. So well, he snapped his fingers and Issei's magic circle appeared under them. Dragon vs Phoenix. Training room Hyoudou residence. We find ourselves in the same forest as the previous chapter, but let's focus on Asia and Sona, who had Issei's magic circle under them, where they were surprised by it. Where the magic circle beneath them began to travel through them, causing a great glow, where the clothes they had that were the academy uniform and the nun dress were now totally different. Because Asia previously had a nun's dress, but now she no longer had it, since now she had a yukata kimono that was short and looked like she had nothing but she had shorts, since Issei would not let anyone see the treasure of his beloved Asia. Well, it sounds like she previously had the Kuo Academy uniform, well now she also wore a yukata, I think it is, right? Which the upper garment was blue, a dark blue that had a few black edges, so that later we go down to the lower part that first consisted of a skirt that fit perfectly to her waist, making it stand out, but under the skirt she wore black pants or tights. So that she finished the outfit with some black sandals or sneakers. Issei. Well, with those clothes they will train, but yours sounds, it is a little special. While watching how the two examined each other, that sounds when hearing what she said I pay attention, and well, why do I say special? Well, the answer is that. Issei. Right now, with that yukata that you are wearing, you are going to grow with it. What I mean is that as you grow with the progress of your training, the yukata will change with you. But, enough talk, it's time for you to start your training. Issei. But give your best effort, while giving Sona a kiss on the lips and one on the forehead, where they both blushed at what he did. Issei also did the same thing, which was snapping his fingers, where Asia and Sona disappeared and then appeared next to the others, who did the same thing, which was concentrating and maintaining their balance so as not to fall. Issei. Well, Drake will be the one who will train them along with a clone of mine that I will leave, and well, I hope for great things with all of you. My clone will teach you to forge a fighting style, also magic, and perhaps the use of weapons such as the sword, Naginata. Oh, and other things. While he created a magic circle, and an exact replica of our protagonist began to form. Well, he has all my knowledge, so I see that you will have no problems with the training. Issei. And by the way, the time they will be training will be a year, but do not worry, they will not age or anything, only their appearance could change with training. Well, I am also retiring to train, so goodbye. While he created a dimensional crack in front of him and entered, so that it would close later, where after a while, Drake entered the room in his chibi form. Where he began to change his form and now Drake was in his size that he had before being locked up. Dimensional gap. We can see the dimensional gap, a large space that seemed to have no end, but there was a large red dragon flying calmly until he saw that a dimensional gap opened where our beloved protagonist came out and sat on the head of the great dragon. Jiroho. It's been a while since I saw you, Issei, to what do I owe your visit? Issei. Hahaha, can't I come to see you, old man? Jiroho. Hahaha, you're still the same brat, and how is the human world? Issei. Normal and calm, only with the exception that there are renegade demons in my hometown, and previously fallen angels, but I already took care of that plague, but well, how about we have a fight? Jired. Hahaha, as a gap opened in front of them and they entered. Unknown place. We see a meadow full of vegetation, just that, pure vegetation, as if animal life did not exist, but let's focus on a tree where our protagonist was resting under the shade of the tree. Jiroho. It seems like a good place to fight, doesn't it? Issei. Yes, it's a good place, but it's a shame that it doesn't last when we fight, but more than anything you surprise me, I didn't know you could have a human body. Well, he got up from where he was sitting and turned to look at him. So she could see a red-haired man who didn't look old, who was good and could make any woman fall in love with him and also had the same height as Issei. Issei. Well, shall we get started now? When Issei finished saying that he launched a punch at Jiroho that he ended up blocking. Jiroho. Hahaha, we are going to have fun while looking at Issei with a funny look. Issei. Of course we will, hahaha. Well, Issei also looked at Jired with an amused look. And so beginning with the training of the two, both the girls who are friends or partners of our protagonist, as well as the training that seemed more like a fight with the dragon god of dreams than training. Time skip training dimension of the Hyoudou residence. It only took about a month for them to be able to maintain their balance without any problems, although there were a few times where they fell altogether or one by one like dominoes. Drake, seeing that they had finished, could only smile as he watched how they were no longer on top of those boards and spikes, resting on the grass and talking calmly. Until Drake called them where he only told them that he was continuing the physical training, and he only put on a smile when he said that, where when they saw that smile they felt that what was going to happen was not going to be good at all. Where Drake told them that they were going to start their training from now on with a jog, but with some small weights, so that they could improve their speed further, so that after their jog, they would do small series of squats and sit-ups. Yes, the girls are not going to be that busty, no, they will only have a flat stomach for those who like skinny girls, and the legs are not going to be that marked either, well somewhat, but not too much. And that's where they began their training with Drake, where Drake tried to be as delicate as possible with them by putting that on them, but he was pleasantly surprised to see that they were still trying to endure more than they could bear. Where they were training for 3 months, where every day that Drake saw that they no longer had problems with the weights, he added a little more weight. Until those 3 months were up and Isay would train them for 4 months to learn a fighting style and forge one themselves, as well as the use of weapons, where Asia stood out in the use of the bow and Kiryu created a fighting style with his katana, while the others were also good at using weapons, and so where they all became experts in the use of weapons, but not like Isay. After that, where they had 4 months left to train them, Isay told them that he would train them for 4 months to teach them magic, where well now they had a good amount of magic that they had before. So that Isay could begin to teach them how to use elemental magic, where Sona, being from a demonic clan that uses water, had great mastery over it, and so starting with the training, where they were all able to master water, earth, fire and air, being able to create great and devastating attacks, in addition to combining that with their fighting style. But Sona decided to learn a magic that her sister used, which was ice magic, which at first was too difficult for her, but try after try she improved, so that she also had mastery over this element. And Kiryu followed Sona's example, where she also decided to learn magic about the lightning element, since her sacred gear used that element, so it would be good for her to learn, which was also not easy. Kiryu sometimes ended up hurt by her attacks, and Asia healed her. That was where, try after try, Kiryu improved her mastery over this element. Where she created techniques or abilities along with her sword on this element. Isay also decided to teach them about light and darkness magic, although it was difficult for them to learn them, since they were not a simple magic that they could use without problems, and thus all of them could use a few attacks of this type of magic. And so ending those 4 months, in which they were able to learn elemental magic like light and darkness, so that finally there was only 1 day left for their training to end, where they all decided to rest, well not all. Since Issei the clone told them that he would take Asia to train so that she could improve her sacred gear, also Sona, since he also needed to train with her more about her magic and thus creating a door that would take them to another dimension within that dimension to train, thus leaving the girls with a drake that was floating in the lake. Once the three of them were inside, Issei spoke to Asia about what they were going to fight from now on, where Asia hesitated a little since she was too kind and pure, where it was difficult for her to hurt people, but now there was a small change in her, it was noticeable with a determined look. Where she told him that she was determined to help Issei in the problems he has in the future, since she did not want to be a hindrance to Issei who wanted to be of great help to him. And so where a new training would begin for Asia and Sona that would last the same year, where Sona would learn more spells or types of magic, in addition to continuing with light or darkness magic, and Asia would learn to control her sacred gear, in addition to improving her techniques or healing magic. Where she dreams with the help of Isay, and as the months went by she was improving her mastery of magic more, in addition to that she already had a mastery over dark magic and was starting with light magic that she being a demon found more difficult since sometimes she hurt herself. Asia helped her by healing her wounds, in addition to that she began her use of runic magic. While with Asia our beloved protagonist or his clone helped the sweet, tender and beautiful Asia Argento with his sacred gear, where Asia came up with the idea of creating a bow with her healing magic that would help her heal instantly just by hitting an arrow, which did not cost her problems to create. So he began to train with the bow he had, where he made some improvements that if he did not fulfill his objective of hitting the one he wanted to heal, since if it were an enemy, he would be hit by an air arrow that would pierce him, causing confusion as to why they were not healed. Continuing with her training, over time she was able to create a dome around her that served as a shield and also so that she could heal herself while inside it. In addition to continuing her training in magic, she also mastered light and dark magic and began using rune magic with Sona. Until the year passed where the two finished their training, where Asia was able to improve with her sacred gear, where in addition to healing them, it helped them recover magic, in addition to improving more in her use of magic, being able to create different spells. Such as using rune magic without problems, as well as learning a little about dragon slayer magic in case they ever had to face a dragon. Sona also during that year of training, she improved her use of magic further in addition to having a large arsenal of spells, such as also learning rune magic that she could now use without any problem, where she also learned with Asia the dragon slayer magic in addition to being able to also learn healing magic so that she can use it in battle. Thus returning to the other dimension with the others along with a Drake that was their chibi size who were about to leave the dimension or room, who were all surprised except Drake to see that it only took them a day and they returned just in time. End of time skip. Time skip by Issei Hyoudou. Well, this time skip was a fight between Great Red and Isay, where it was a battle of gods, and well their battle lasted a year where now it ended in a draw, since the two hit each other at the same time and were left unconscious, well obviously not before without leaving a mess in the dimension they fought in. End. Hyoudou residence living room. We see our protagonist sitting on the couch playing the Halo Reach campaign, while on the table there was a glass of whiskey. The peculiar thing is that he was only wearing a pair of pants that were torn, leaving his marked torso exposed. Until he started hearing someone's footsteps and some voices that he recognized, pausing the video game and grabbing his glass of whiskey and leaning on the couch to start drinking it while he waited for them to arrive. Meanwhile, with the girls who left the dimension and headed to the living room, well they were accompanied by a drake who was flying calmly, in addition to some who were chatting calmly, like Kiryu with Asia, until they reached the living room. Issei. I see that you finished your training. While he got up from where he was sitting and turned to look at them, that when they saw him in the way he was, they blushed because of his torso that was naked as well as marked. Issei. Well, I think you must be tired, so why don't you take a bath in the hot springs located on the ground floor next to the training room. When he finished saying that he was alone again, because the group of girls were no longer there, so he decided to go to the kitchen to prepare something for them. Where after a while of cooking I leave all the dishes that I prepare for them in the dining room, as if it were a buffet. When I finish arranging them I leave a small note and leave the kitchen, to go to my room and take a shower, which I got dressed when I finished, and then lie down in my bed where I fall asleep. All the others were enjoying the hot springs in the house, until after a long while they left just when Issei finished cooking and went up to his room and went up to find a large buffet in the kitchen, but a note stood out that Sona approached to grab it and read it. Hello, well for enduring and giving your great effort in training I wanted to reward you with this meal that I prepared for all of you, enjoy it, you earned it, and I apologize for not accompanying you, but I wanted to rest before having my fight with the fried chicken. Without further ado, I say goodbye. I love you all. Sincerely, Issei. Everyone hearing that, including the beautiful Kiryu and the tender and sweet Asia, felt a strange feeling for Issei that was getting stronger, or they were discovering or clarifying it, where they would all thank him later. But Sona found something strange, and that something was that the note said that she wanted to rest before her meeting with the fried chicken. Until she finally realized something, and that was that today was the meeting between the two of them, but she downplayed it since there was still time to go for her entourage, since Razor had asked that the battle be broadcast to all the demon clans and everyone in the supernatural world. So that everyone could sit at the table to start eating and enjoy the great banquet that Issei had prepared for them. 1 hour before meeting the chick. We can see that the girls were having fun, and I say this literally since they were all playing Halo Reach Team Duel until they started to hear footsteps coming from the stairs, pausing the game to see if it was Issei. Upon seeing who it was, they were surprised by the beauty he had where he now had his hair like an emo, which would make any woman fall in love with him, in addition to wearing a black or grey shirt, while he had a purple or light lilac dress vest, along with black dress pants and black dress shoes, but what stood out the most was the black cape he was wearing. Sona, Ria, Momo, Asia, Kiryu. Issei. Well, they looked at him with a noticeable blush on their cheeks. Issei. What's wrong, is something wrong girls? As he finished going down the stairs and approached them. Asia. It's not that Issei-san, it's just that while looking away you look different. Kiryu. I'd say I'm more of a better than anything while looking him up and down. Issei. Hahaha, well I'm not the only one who looks different while looking closely at each of them, you guys look more beautiful than you already are. Since when she looked at them she saw that they all matured their faces and bodies, starting with Kiryu, since she looked too beautiful since her hair had grown, but she still used the same hairstyle, but with long hair, she looked more beautiful with her glasses, and also that she had developed a body that my mother Willie. Now she was accompanied by beautiful legs, along with a marked and well-formed butt, along with a small waist and flat stomach, although now her breasts had grown a little. To then continue with Momo and Ria, who also looked much more beautiful than before, along with their beautiful white and brown hair, who had also developed bodies that are heart-stopping, but not as much as those of the one-isamas of the Kuo Academy. And we also have the cute and now beautiful ex-nun Asia Argento, who had developed a great beauty that would captivate and make any man fall in love, and now had her hair a little longer, in addition to also developing a body where her chest grew a little, and had developed legs along with a formed butt. But let's not even talk about Sona Citri, who was now a beautiful girl, compared to what she was before, with a great unmatched beauty that you could fall in love with at first sight. As well as her hair growing where she now had it long, in addition to also developing her body where her chest grew a little, but she compensated for it with what she now had, which were beautiful and fleshy legs, along with a well-formed butt that could not be compared to another, or maybe yes, but each one is special. Issei. Well, I wanted to give you something before I had my fight, while creating 4 magic circles, and 4 swords appeared in their respective sheaths. Issei. And that would be these katanas that were created by me and the help of a friend. Well, the white sword is from Momo, the black one with a red sheath is from Sona, the one with yellow details and a black handle is from Asia, and finally the one with a completely black sheath is from Ria. Issei. And don't worry, they are like sacred gears, but they will appear as necklaces for you, and no one else will be able to take them from you, but well, go ahead and take them without shame, it is a gift from me to you, and I apologize for not giving you something, Kiryu-chan. Kiryu? No, don't worry Issei-kun, I have no problem with that. When I finished saying that, each one would take the sword that belonged to them now, and when they took them, the swords disappeared, so that they now had beautiful silver necklaces with a beautiful jewel hanging. Asia's necklace had a yellow gemstone or jewel that shone brightly, while Momo's stone was white, Ria's was light blue, and Sona's was a deep blue. Issei. Well, Asia, I hope you don't have any problems with us leaving you, but as you know, I have to face a chick, and that reminds me that you will be able to see the match, since Razor wanted to broadcast it to the entire underworld, so I also have the channels that pass through the underworld, so you will be able to see the match while I was watching Asia. Issei. Well, don't you guys plan on going with your entourages? Well, he turned to look at Sona, Momo, Ria and Kiryu. Sona. Yes, well we leave Issei-kun, we have to go for the others, while she approached him and gave him a kiss and good luck while winking at him. Issei was surprised by what Sona had just done, but was interrupted by a quick kiss from Ria and Momo, who then approached Sona to retreat through a magic circle. Kiryu. Well, I'll go with Ria as well, creating a magic circle under her and began to disappear. Issei. Well, I think it's time, while he took out the pamphlet that gave him laughter and looked at it until he felt someone hug him from behind, and he turned around to see who it was, meeting an Asia. What's wrong Asia-chan? Asia. Nothing Issei-san, I just wanted to give it to you, in addition to thanking you for training me, and I know that time has passed, but also for having saved me while hiding her face in our protagonist's chest. Issei. You don't have to thank me Asia-chan, I should thank you for having met you and finding you in that park while hugging her. Asia. Well, Issei-san, while separating from him, finished that fried chicken while giving him a beautiful smile. Issei. Haha, of course I will, while caressing her head while I'm going, while he walked away from her and applied a little magic to the pamphlet and it began to disappear, and thus leaving our pretty nun, who decided to go and put the channel where the fight would be broadcast. Supernatural world, underworld dimension. We can see a floating land or platform. Well, there were marble columns on the banks, but on top of these columns, there were chess pieces made with the same material, in addition to there being some destroyed columns, but there was a blonde-haired man with an arrogant face in the center of the platform. Razor. Ugh shit, how much longer will I have to wait for that stew? Before he finished, saying that a magic circle of the Grimmery family appeared, where Razor could get an idea of who he was. And slowly our protagonist appeared with his new look, emo Avenger, and his cape, where Razor had no idea that he was the person who was going to give him a tremendous beating. As a servant of the Mayor Maul Lucifer, I will be the referee of this match between Mr. Razor Phoenix and Mr. Hyoudou, where Mr. Razor asked that the match be broadcast throughout the underworld, in addition to making a bet that also involves the commitment of Miss Rias. With this said that the match begins, let's go ahead. When he finished saying that, a silence filled the room where they were just watching. While that was happening, Ria's entourage was in a room and was surprised by Issei's new appearance, while he was accompanied by a Redeed, who could be the male version of Ria's, watching the meeting, waiting for one of the two to move. That also happened in another room where Sona's entourage was watching the meeting, where there was a Saji who wanted to see what our protagonist was capable of. But elsewhere in an office where there were several piles of paper, where there was a brunette who had her hair and two ponytails on the sides while wearing a business suit watching the meeting, but had a thoughtful look when she heard Hyoudou. Returning to our chick and dragon, they continued to see each other until Razor took out his wings of fire and took flight to quickly throw a fireball at our protagonist, who just stepped aside and the fireball passed by without harming him. Razor, seeing this, launched himself at Issei to start throwing blows that our protagonist ended up dodging with great mastery until he saw an opening for Razor and unleashed a knee that hit him squarely in the pit of his stomach, knocking the air out of him and causing him to step back. Issei took advantage of this and ended up giving Razor a heel kick to the head that ended up burying him in the ground, where Issei took advantage of this and used his magic to create a forest throughout the battlefield and disappear. When Razor got up from where he was buried, he found the scene of a forest around him where he could not find Issei. Razor. Show yourself, damn it. While turning to look around, don't complicate things, your defeat will be easy, while taking flight with his wings to get a better view. As he was preparing to launch a large fire attack to wipe out the forest, he received a quick air arrow that pierced his left shoulder. Razor. Ugh, you'll pay for this. While he grabbed his shoulder and began to regenerate, but hahaha, I'm sure you know about the generational background that the Phoenix clan has, so it's not easy for you. Issei. Hahaha, I know, imbecile, but I want to play with you a little. Well, Issei's voice was heard, so have fun, when he finished, saying that now a horde of air arrows were directed against Razor, who flew somewhere else to dodge them. Where he created a quick fireball to throw it into the forest, where it hit a tree that began to burn, and where again a wave of arrows was directed against the one who decided to move, but still more arrows were launched, where one of them hit him in the leg, piercing it, and his regeneration did its job. And he created a fireball in each hand and threw them into the forest, and so on, where he carried a large part of the forest on fire until he received an arrow in the right shoulder that caused burning and great pain at the same time, where he tried to use his regeneration to heal himself, but it didn't work. While he was concentrating on that, arrows appeared again in Razor's direction, where he barely dodged them, and again the arrows came back, but at another angle, where he dodged them again, but this time with difficulty, where some passed by, tiring his wounds, where some healed and others did not, complicating his mobility further. And now a large horde of arrows were directed at him, where he created a fireball and launched it at the arrows, and smiled when he saw that the arrows were stopped, but the pleasure did not last long, since some arrows flew by where they caught him off guard and ended up hitting some in his wings and body, causing him to plummet to the ground, causing a large cloud of smoke. Razor. Ugh shit, as he came out of the hole created by his fall and could be seen with several wounds on his body while he was bleeding without regenerating. I think I underestimated you, hahaha, damn, but what do you think if we leave the magic aside and face each other bare knuckles? When he finished saying that, the forest instantly vanished as if a forest had never been there, and then Issei appeared in front of him. Issei. Well, shall we begin? Razor, upon hearing that, just smiled and got into a fighting stance, while Issei just stared at him. Until Razor with all his strength launched himself at him with a fist heading towards his face that Issei only stepped back to dodge, but Razor wouldn't leave him there, but quickly sent another one that Issei dodged again, provoking Razor's rage, who began to throw more blows at him that he ended up dodging with great agility. While Razor increased the number of blows and their speed, and Issei continued to dodge. Until Razor threw a kick that was headed to hit Issei's right side, but Issei blocked it with one hand, and Razor seeing this took the opportunity to throw a direct punch to the face that Issei blocked by grabbing his right fist, where Razor again threw a punch with his free arm that Issei again blocked by grabbing his fist. Issei threw or pushed him back, causing Razor to step back, and Issei took advantage of this to launch himself against him, where he threw a kick to the side that Razor blocked, and when Razor blocked the kick, Issei took advantage of this where he quickly spun in the air, so that he ended up giving Razor a side heel kick in the face, causing him to fly away and land on the ground. But Razor quickly got up and went against Issei, where he threw a direct blow to the face that Issei dodged by stepping aside, so that Razor took advantage of this and threw a sweep kick to try to knock him down. But Issei saw this where he stepped back, and Razor quickly recomposed himself and threw a sidekick that Issei blocked by grabbing his leg, and Issei quickly elbowed Razor in the leg like in the Karate Kid movie, with Will Smith's son causing him to back away because of the pain he felt where it was hard for him to stand up. So that Issei took advantage of this and quickly launched himself against Razor, who couldn't see him, and ended up hitting him in the abdomen, knocking the air out of him, where Issei took advantage of this and grabbed Razor's head to give him a knee that hit him full in the face, so that Razor would step back while blood came out of his nose. But Issei would not stay like that, so he took advantage of this and began to throw punches to the face and body at an impressive speed, where Razor did not give him time to recover or at least defend himself, since only Issei was seen grabbing Razor like a punching bag and blood was seen splashing the ground where they were. All the spectators of the fight were shocked by the speed and brutality with which he was hitting, as with every punch he delivered he was staining the ground. So that Issei, after hitting him for a while, grabbed him to throw him with great force into the air, where Issei disappeared in a blur on the ground, so that later, Issei could be seen in the air, where he ended up giving him a great blow that sent him with impressive speed to the ground, causing a great roar like a cloud of dust. Issei once again disappeared in a blur, and then the drawing of a sword could be heard, like a slash in the air, causing the cloud of dust to go away, where now we can see an Issei threatening a Razor with his sword katana near his neck, since there was no Razor in good condition, as he was stained with his own blood all over his body. Razor, seeing that he no longer had a chance to escape or at least attack, had no choice but to give up. That with what we saw where Mr. Razor has no escape or chances to attack, so Mr. Hyoudou is the winner, thus ending the match. When the Mayu's maid finished saying that, the two of them disappeared from the field platform by means of a magic circle. Where now Issei appeared in a room with an elegant and classic style, due to the furniture and painted walls, and then a beautiful young woman entered, who seems to be in her early 20s with silver hair down to her back, that has a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest is left to fall, ending in twin braids and silver-colored eyes. While wearing a blue and white French maid outfit with long sleeves and a white maid headband on her head with red lipstick as a cosmetic accessory highlighting her great beauty. Issei. Excuse me, where am I and could you tell me who you are? Graphia. I am Graphia Lucifuge, the servant of the Grimory clan, and I am in the castle of the Mayu Lucifer, so I ask you to follow me if it is not too much trouble, since he wants to talk to you while leaving the room, and Issei followed her. Where they were walking for a while, where Issei saw that he was right, since it looked like a medieval castle where he saw maids in different places while they cleaned the castle, until they stopped in front of a door where Graphia knocked until they heard the pass. When they entered the room, that was an office since there were several piles of papers around it, but there was a Redeed who looked 20 years old with long hair down to his shoulders that Issei, upon seeing him, imagined Ria's because of the great resemblance they had. Surziches. Thank you for bringing it, Graphia. Let me introduce myself. I am Surziches Lucifer, the Mayu Lucifer, or previously as Surziches Grimory. It is a pleasure to meet you, Hyoudou Issei. Issei. He said Grimory, right, so you are Ria's brother? While receiving a nod from him in response, well then it's a pleasure to meet you while bowing. Surziches. Oh haha, leave the formalities, I owe you thanks since you freed my sister from that commitment, but above all, who are you? Issei. Hahaha, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, since you are Ria's brother and the Mayu, I think there would be no problem in telling you, but let's keep this between the three of us. Receiving a nod from Graphia and Surziches, so that he could create a sound barrier in the room well. And so where he told them since he awakened the boosted gear and met the two dragon gods, as he also became the disciple of the dragon god of dreams, where they created a new body for him, so now he was 100% a dragon, and that he trained him in a dimension where time passed faster than here, and that when he finished his training, he reached a power equal to or even greater than them. But Red named him as a new dragon god. At first they doubted, but with the battle against Razor, they saw that he was holding back, where Issei also showed them the boosted gear and released only a part of his power that came to rival that of Surziches, seeing that everything was true. Surziches. Well, with what you said and demonstrated we believe you, but why don't you want the supernatural world to know that you are a new dragon god? Issei. I don't know for the moment. I don't want to draw attention right now, but with the Razor meeting it doesn't help me, but I'll see the time to show myself and introduce myself to the entire supernatural world. Surziches. Okay, well how about we make a deal? Issei became interested when he heard that. Issei. I'm all ears while putting on a smile that made me blush a little when I saw her. Surziches. Hahaha, I propose that you be my bounty hunter. What I mean is that you and your future entourage have a deal with the Mao Lucifer, where you eliminate the renegade demons and the demons who think of betraying their masters, and I will pay you a large sum of money. Issei. Hahaha, well 2 glasses with ice and a bottle with whiskey appeared seems fine to me, after all I have nothing to do and well with it I'm going to have fun. Well he uncorked the bottle and poured it into the 2 glasses and then offered one to Surziches. Surziches. Haha, well grabbing the glass then it's a deal so that they could then clink the glass. The lovely Ravel Phoenix. Underworld. We can see a car that was not just any car, since it was a 1962 Chevrolet Covert C1 traveling along the road to reach the Phoenix clan's territory, where we can see that the one driving the car was our protagonist who now did not have his cape on. Well he was driving calmly enjoying the air blowing on his face, until he saw for a moment next to him in the passenger seat where there was a wooden box. Moments before. Surziches. Well, I think it's time for you to go with Ajuka who must be waiting for you while creating a magic circle under Issei. Goodbye Issei-kun. And so sending Issei to the castle of the Mao Beelzebub, where our protagonist appeared in front of a large castle, seeing that at the entrance of it, there was a green-haired man with his hair combed back with light blue eyes, while at his side, there was a maid. Ajuka. It's a pleasure to meet you Hyoudou. I saw your match with Razor, and I'm surprised that you beat a high-class person, and I'm sorry for my manners. I introduce myself Ajuka Beelzebub. Well Surziches mentioned to me that you asked for some evil pieces, so come with me to my laboratory. While he turned around, where the maid opened the door for them to enter. Issei. Excuse me, you are the creator of the evil piece, right? While following Ajuka. Ajuka. You're right, you read it in a book, right? While turning to see Issei who nodded in response. Until they reached a door where there were 2 maids next to it who opened the door for them to enter. Upon entering Issei saw that it was a laboratory in its maximum splendor. Ajuka. Well, here we are, so I ask you to create a magic ball the size of a soccer ball please. This. Okay, where Issei began to concentrate his power in his hand, where he decided to add the power of Office and Great Red, concentrating it more in the sphere, which now had a red color with purple touches. Well here it is. Ajuka. Well while taking the sphere with Issei's power, it will take me about an hour to create your evil pieces, so wait. While walking away from Issei. Issei felt that a notification arrived on his cell phone. When he took it out, he saw that it was a message saying that the new car he bought was already at his house, where an idea came to his mind, and he left the laboratory. After a while he entered again, and since there was nothing else to do he started playing Angry Birds. After an hour where Issei continued playing Angry Birds, our protagonist saw Ajuka approaching next to a wooden box, while Issei put away his cell phone and waited for him. Ajuka. Well here are your pieces. While handing them to Issei, although they surprised me since all your pieces have great power within them, and because of that they all mutated, so I can say that your pieces except the king, could be worth as a queen. Issei. Haha, while looking at his pieces, well what can I say, they come from my power. Ajuka. Then I can say that you have great power, right? Issei. You're right, but let's make it a secret. If you want to know more ask Surziches. I told him everything about me, but keep it just between us, and I thank you. Well without further ado I think I'll leave. Ajuka. I'll walk you to the exit. Where they started walking towards the exit. When the maids opened the castle door, Ajuka was surprised to see a classic car parked in front. Issei. Well, since I want to know a little about the underworld, this is the way I thought of it. Besides, I still need to go with someone else, so who knows how I can get to the Phoenix clan's territory. Ajuka. Yes, but I don't know what you're planning to do, so don't do anything stupid. And so where Ajuka gave him the instructions on how to get there. When he finished, Issei said goodbye to him and thanked him, so that he could then go to his car, where he took off his cape to put it in the trunk and close it, so that he could then get into the car and start it up, thus leaving Beelzebub Castle. And so returning to our protagonist, who in the distance could see the territory of the Phoenix clan, well he put on a smile when he saw it, where he decided to accelerate. Underworld Phoenix clan territory. We see our protagonist arriving with his car to a large castle, deciding to park near the entrance of the castle, so he got out of his car to approach the entrance and knock, where he waited until a maid opened it for him. Maid. Oh, you are the one who faced Mr. Razor, where Issei was surprised by that, who is offering it to you. Issei. I would like to talk to Lady Phoenix about something. Maid. Oh of course, well I'll take him with her. While she let him in, where our protagonist followed her until they stopped because of a voice. What is a person like you doing here in the Phoenix castle? Are you here to make fun of Ani-sama? Issei turned to see where that voice came from, finding himself facing a beautiful young woman with dark blue eyes, long blonde hair tied in twintails with large curls like ribbons and blue ribbons holding them in place, where the front of her hair has several strands hanging over her forehead, with a V-shaped stripe hanging over the bridge of her nose. While she had on a light purple dress with dark purple details and a blue bow on the front, on the back, 3 feather-shaped extensions that imitate the tail of a bird protrude from the dress, although it made her beauty stand out more. Maid. Miss Ravel, he came to talk to your mother. Ravel. Then you won't have any problems if I accompany you. Issei. No, I don't have any problem. Well, we continue while he made a pose as if he let her pass, that Ravel seeing that just walked without paying attention to him, that Issei seeing this just found it funny. And so they continued on their way now with Ravel's company until they reached what seemed to be the living room, where there was a woman who looked exactly like Ravel with the same blonde hair and blue eyes, with the only exception that her hair was tied up very high with ornate ornaments, while she calmly drank tea. Maid. Well, bowing Lady Phoenix, I have brought Mr. Hyoudou before you, since he wants to speak with you. Lady Phoenix. Thank you for bringing him. You may leave. When she said that, the maid left, leaving only the 3 of them in the room. Well, what is it that you want to talk to me about? Issei. Let me introduce myself, I'm Hyoudou Issei. It's a pleasure to meet you, lady, while bowing, and I've come to talk to you about what Razor and I bet on. I'm sure you hear what we asked for, right? Lady Phoenix. Of course I heard about that. This Ravel told me while taking a sip of tea. Well, you asked for my daughter if I'm not mistaken, right? Issei. That's right, but I apologize to both of you for asking for your daughter as a reward. I didn't know that Miss Ravel, if you'll allow me to call her that, was in Razor's entourage. Lady Phoenix. Well, I accept your apology since you only came to challenge Razor, so you didn't know she was his sister, and you just chose her while she took another sip of her tea. Issei. And well, what I came to talk about was this, so I came to cancel my reward. I am nobody to come and take your daughter away from you. When Ravel heard that Issei wanted to cancel her reward, she was surprised. Ravel. Why? When she said that, her mother and Issei turned to look at her. Because you want to cancel your bet, you won, collect your reward, do whatever you want. In the end, Oni-sama lost against you. Issei. Haha, well Ravel, if you allow me to call you that, I may beat Razor, but I don't plan on taking someone without their consent and permission, much less a beautiful lady like you. Ravel upon hearing that just blushed and looked away so they wouldn't see her, so that's why I came to cancel my bet. Ravel. You say you come from the human world, right? While still trying to hide her blush, well, as the commoner that you are, I think I'll give you the opportunity to show me the human world, so feel honored. Where she acted a bit sundier while being watched by her mother and Issei. Well, Issei got really scared just like you guys, right? Because of what just happened. Issei. Boo, well then why aren't you going to prepare your things? When he said that, Ravel left there elegantly. Haha. Lady Phoenix. Well, from what I see, I think you did collect your reward while taking a sip of her tea. Issei. Haha, I really don't know what just happened, but I can't do anything now. She made her decision. Lady Phoenix. That's right, by the way, you have pieces, right? While looking at him. Issei. They just gave them to me. Why? Well, he got an idea. Lady Phoenix. So that Ravel leaves the Razor entourage, since from now on she will be in the human world with you. Issei. I don't plan on forcing her to join my entourage without consent, but I think I can do something about that. When he said that, he caught Lady Phoenix's attention, but that would be until she arrives. So a while passed where Issei started playing Angry Birds again, while Lady Phoenix continued drinking her tea calmly and analyzing Issei, until Ravel arrived with only a suitcase. Ravel. Well, I'm ready, catching the attention of Issei and his mother. Issei. Yes, well, I can't take you that easily, since you're still a Razor piece. So while approaching Ravel, calm down, since I won't hurt you. So that he would then create a sphere of crimson power in his hand, drawing the attention of Lady Phoenix and Ravel, where Issei would release it, and the sphere would head towards Ravel's chest, where her heart was, and enter her. That Ravel only felt a tickle in her chest. Hey, calm down, don't think badly, and then the sphere came out again, and Issei grabbed the sphere. Issei. Well, Razor has a bacchante for his entourage, while handing the bishop piece to Lady Phoenix. Well, Ravel looked surprised by what she did, since she hadn't felt pain or anything, just a simple tickle, and Lady Phoenix was also surprised, but tried to maintain her composure, even though her surprise was a little noticeable. Ravel. How could you do that, without him feeling pain or dying in the process or something? But how? Issei. Hahaha, while putting a hand on Ravel's head. A magician never shows his tricks. When he finished, saying that, he winked at her and gave her a smile, leaving a Ravel blushing at what she did. Issei. Well, I'll leave you my address in case you'd like to visit your daughter someday in the human world. While handing a piece of paper to Lady Phoenix. You're free to go any day, although I hope Razor doesn't want to cause me trouble. Issei. Well, that would be all. Without further ado, I leave. Well, he bowed and grabbed Ravel's suitcase, and Ravel said goodbye to her mother so that they would then head for the exit, but… Lady Phoenix. Hi to Issei, right? Issei just nodded upon hearing his name. I leave the care and well-being of my daughter in your hands. Issei. I will take care of her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, even if it cost me my life. When Ravel heard that, she blushed a little at what our protagonist was saying. So Ravel pulled him by the sleeve so they could continue on their way, leaving a mother amused by what her daughter did, where they continued on their way until halfway through this Ravel let go of him and walked in front of him without taking importance to our protagonist. While Issei just followed her without saying anything until they reached the exit, where the maids upon seeing them opened the door and thus they left the Phoenix Castle. Ravel. While realizing something, why didn't we go through a magic circle? While turning to look at our protagonist. Issei. Well, I wanted to know the supernatural world, so I arrived in that, while pointing to his car, and Ravel turned to see where he pointed, finding the beautiful classic. Ravel. Well, I think I have nothing against that. Issei. Okay, well, let's go. As he approached the car in the trunk and opened it and put the Ravel suitcase inside. Okay, come in. Ravel. What's wrong with you? I'm not going to get into the trunk, that's why you're a simple commoner. Well, only our protagonist saw it, watching how he acted. Issei. Haha, that's not what I meant. While closing the trunk, I wanted you to get in the passenger seat. While he approached the door on that side and opened it. Ravel. Well, if you ask me like that, I would have understood it better. While he approached the side where Issei was and entered the car, and Issei closed the door and got into the driver's seat. Issei. Well, it's time to go. As he started the engine and began to accelerate away from the Phoenix Castle. Thus beginning a little trip with Ravel, going through the underworld again, where Issei enjoyed the air and Ravel just watched the landscape go by until he saw Issei put music on the car stereo and Escape by Rupert Holmes was playing. That Ravel, upon hearing the music, just turned to look at Issei, who was just moving his head to the rhythm, and that he turned to look at her, giving her a quick smile and continued driving, where she just continued watching things go by, while the music that she liked because of the rhythm it had was heard. Continuing their journey for an hour while listening to music from the 90s or 80s that Ravel liked, all the songs that passed, and he saw all the things that he had missed seeing in the supernatural world, but now he saw them. Until they reached a point on the road where you could see a large distortion, where Issei continued driving, crossing it being like a portal as it took them to a road in Kuo City. Surprising Ravel by the great change of scenery that occurred, seeing now a city at night shining from the lights that had illuminated the street and the houses or buildings, thus continuing on his way. Where Ravel saw several bars and some clubs pass by, where you could see people dancing while watching others drink, clubs, as well as restaurants, cafes or jazz clubs. Until Ravel saw one where they danced to different music that he had hardly heard anywhere else, with a totally different rhythm that just by listening to it made him want to dance like that, listening to a short piece of the song that was said. Forgive me, I didn't realize that game, and I fell in love, then it was too late, I couldn't go back, and I loved you more and more every day. Seriously, if you find out what song it is, you have my respect as a Mexican or Latino who goes to parties. Continuing on his way, where now Ravel had that lyric in his mind along with that rhythm, where Ravel only turned around as if he didn't want to stop listening to it. Issei noticed that but didn't decide to say anything, so he kept driving. After driving for a while, they were arriving at a house that looked more like a mansion, while around it there were non-luxurious houses like the one that stood out, where Ravel was somewhat surprised by that, and Issei entered it, entering the garage that opened with only the presence that he felt approaching the car, thus entering. Once inside, Ravel could see that further inside there was a great variety of cars and motorcycles, where Issei parked next to the Bugatti La Voiture Noire. Issei. Okay, we arrived. While he turned off the engine and stopped the music so that he could then get out of the car, and Ravel could do the same, so that Issei could then open the trunk and grab Ravel's suitcase and close the trunk. Okay, let's get in. Ravel. Are all these vehicles yours? While looking at all the car models as well as the motorcycles that our protagonist had. Issei. Yes, they are all beautiful, hahaha, but let's leave that aside, we have to go up and rest. While he walked towards the door and Ravel followed him. Leaving the garage and going up, where Ravel found a modern house design, finding a large kitchen as well as a large dining room, a beautiful living room with a large flat screen TV and a great aquarium. Ravel was fascinated by it. While our protagonist was amused by Ravel, who saw the fish tank like a little girl, until our protagonist caught her attention by telling her that he would show her the room where she would stay. Where our protagonist headed towards the stairs while our blonde-haired loli followed him, so the two of them went up to the upper floor, walking through a few rooms until they stopped in one, and immediately after, Issei opened the door, entering the room with Ravel. Ravel, seeing the room, saw that it was large, but not like the one she had in the underworld, where she could see that she had a bathroom all to herself, a wardrobe, a desk, a large window that gave her a view of the outside, and that it was adorned with a beautiful curtain, a bed that was not as big as the one she had in the underworld, and next to it was a nightstand. Issei. Well, this is your room. While leaving his suitcase next to the bed, make yourself at home and use it without problems. Without further ado, I'm leaving, Miss Ravel, and have a nice night, while bowing and leaving the room. Ravel watched as he left the room, leaving her alone in the room, where she decided to go change into more comfortable clothes so she could sleep. While with our protagonist, we can see him arrive at the door of his room, where he stood in front of the door and let out a heavy sigh, deciding to enter. Upon entering, he found a queen who was asleep in his bed, while she was wearing a shirt of his shirts that he just decided to change and get into bed with her. Once he did, he just limited himself to hugging Rhea, who, upon feeling the warmth he was giving her, settled down so that our protagonist could cover them both, so that after a while our protagonist fell asleep. The new day begins at the Hyoudou residence, where we can see Issei in the kitchen preparing breakfast, and also seeing that there were several dishes on the table, and that the kitchen and the dishes gave off an extravagant smell that would make you hungry and want to try at least one of those dishes. Where all that appetizing smell began to flood the house, reaching each of the rooms that the girls were using, beginning to wake all of them up, who, upon smelling the aroma, decided to go downstairs still in their pajamas. But let's focus on the room of the dear, beautiful and illegal blonde-haired lowly Ravel Phoenix, who was sleeping peacefully, and I mean peacefully, since she was sleeping in a position that looked like she had been rolled over, while she had the sheet blanket tangled with her, and her hair was messy like saliva coming out of her mouth. That when the smell reached her, she began to wake up slowly, that once she woke up she stretched and got out of bed. When she was going to take the first step, she ended up falling to the floor, as she had forgotten to take off the sheet in which she was stuck. Her feet were tangled and she ended up hitting the floor. Where now we can see a Ravel on the ground rubbing her nose from the blow she received, where it was noticeable that her nose was red from the blow, so that after a while of rubbing her nose, she decided to remove the sheet in which she was tangled. Once he finished and got up, he headed in the direction of where that exquisite smell that made him hungry came from, where he was going to leave the room no matter what, but he stopped halfway and quickly returned to the mirror, where he looked at himself. Meeting a Raveler herself with messy hair as well as her pajamas, where she decided to fix her pajamas and hair a bit, in addition to cleaning the dried saliva she had before going down, and that maybe Issei would find her in that state. Once she had her hair in its respective drill-shaped ponytails and looking a little more decent than it had before, she decided to go down and see where that aroma that caused her appetite was coming from. Going downstairs and heading to the kitchen, he found that in the dining room, there was a white-haired girl who was beautiful, like a brown-haired girl who had her hair down, who was also very beautiful. The blonde-haired girl who was beautiful at first glance with an aura of purity, and finally with a brown-haired girl who had light brown hair with a beautiful body and beauty that would make anyone fall in love. Until Ravel saw our protagonist come out of the kitchen while he was having a plate of hotcakes until he saw her. Issei. I see that Miss Ravel has finally woken up. How about you join us for breakfast? Well, he put the plate in an available place and moved the chair back so that Ravel could sit and she would accept the gesture and thank him. Ravel. Well, I have no problem sharing a table with commoners. When he said that, they all turned to see Isay, who was putting maple syrup on his pancakes. When he felt their gaze, all he did was say, "What? Ravel? And a favor, Issei-sama, could you just call me Ravel without the miss suffix?" Although an Issei was like a television without a signal when he heard the sama. Where Ravel finished saying that and decided to eat at once, grabbing the first bite and bringing it to her mouth. When she tasted it, she was now a Ravel in the same state as Issei. While the others, seeing the state Ravel was in, only did one thing, and that was it. Momo, Rhea, Asia and Kiryu. First time. When they said that, Ravel's television got a signal again. Ravel. This, what do you mean by first time? While I looked at them confused. Rhea. Yes, it's your first time trying Issei-kun's food, because we all had that expression when we tried his food. Ravel. Really? While being surprised by that. Asia. Yes, Issei-sen then takes the trouble to prepare breakfast or lunch or dinner for us. Momo. Yes, and it's really delicious. While she had her hands on her cheeks while imagining all the times she tried her food. While that was happening with them, there was a Kiryu who now had no television signal and was completely lost, as if she was imagining something. Since then she said in a low voice, "Ice-kun yami kudasai okno." What she was really saying was how lucky I am, or I really love you Ice, but let's get back to Ravel. Ravel. Oh, I see, but a question while calling the attention of the three. Who are you? Asia. Oh, my sincere apologies for not having introduced ourselves. Let me introduce myself. I am Asia Argento. Momo. I am Momo Hanakai, servant of Miss Ona Citri. Rhea. Rhea Kusaka, and also servant of Miss Ona. And now there was only one Kiryu left who now had a perverted face and saliva coming out of her mouth, and with the signal now more lost, when Asia saw that she decided to do the best she could to bring her back, and that was by throwing a hot cake in her face. Kiryu? And not so hard to say Sama, I mean who was it that threw a hot cake at me? While wiping his saliva. Asia. It was me Kiryu-san, why did you forget to introduce yourself to the lady? Kiryu, an apology, well let me introduce myself, I am Ika Kiryu, pawn of Miss Ria's Gremory. Ravel. Ravel Phoenix, nice to meet you all. Issei. I see that you have already introduced yourselves while Issei was having a coffee quietly. Well, I'll leave you, I'm going to my office to do some things. Issei. But when you finish breakfast, you four come see me because I want to talk to you about something, and your Ravel-chan can change or something or finish settling in, but today you will get to know the human world a little. When she finished saying that, she got up and left the kitchen, leaving only the five of them who continued enjoying breakfast. After a while and finishing breakfast, Ravel went to her room to change, while the others headed to Issei's office, which was once in front of her. So knocking on the door where they received a pass entering the office, upon entering they found an Issei with the clothes he used yesterday, Sasuke's, who was playing pool. Issei. Well, since you are here I think we can talk, what I wanted to talk to you about is that I made a deal with the Mao Lucifer, and to summarize it, and without so many detours, I am or we are bounty hunters in the underworld. Issei. Well, because I was bored and I didn't know what to do, because if I did something, it would attract attention, and with what happened and what Razor and I bet on, I saw an opportunity to at least introduce myself to the Demon King. Issei. And he took advantage, or rather with what he knew of my story, he decided to take advantage of the situation and made me a deal to work for him as a bounty hunter, and I accepted. Although I could reject it and do something crazy like kidnap him and ask for a sum of money, and maybe they would try to kill me, and then it would be the other way around, and I would end up killing them and ruling the underworld. Issei. But I didn't want to draw attention, so I just accepted the deal, and well, I want to get you into this, we'll be like a bounty hunting team where they'll pay us a large sum of money for our work, but I have it as a goal, so that you can gain experience in battle and killing someone, and so that you have money and spend it however you want, so, what do you think? When Issei finished saying all that, he realized something, and that something is that the four of them look like a television without a signal, but like that machine where some became paler than they already are. Issei. Hey girls, are you okay? Well, he waved his hand in front of them until they reacted. Asia. Issei-san is sure, I mean none of us have had fighting experience, and I am capable of killing someone. Issei. Calm down Asia, while putting a hand on her head and caressing it slowly, you can now fight someone without problems with everything you learned, you could even face a small group alone, and otherwise we would only be attacking the bad guys who are the ones who do not want peace, and well, I would let you know about the missions and that, but I wanted to give you some gifts. When he said that, he approached a long box and opened it in front of them, showing them some wristbands, but they had something peculiar in them that seemed like they were pulling out knives. Issei. These are some weapons that I think, while he put one on his right arm and took out the blade, that can work for us to fight or in missions where we don't have to draw attention. I hope you get used to using them and learn to fight with them. When he finished saying that, he took off the one he was wearing and gave each of them a pair, which they put on and then disappeared. Issei. Don't worry, they can appear and disappear whenever they want, so it is not necessary to remove them, they are like small artificial sacred gear or simple secret tools. Issei. Well, that would be all, you can leave or get ready since you will accompany Ravel, and I think it's time for you to have new clothes. Well, he handed them the card that office gave him, and Ria grabbed it. I will catch up with you later, so go because I think you have things to do. When he finished saying that, there was only a cloud of smoke in the room, where Issei just smiled when he saw that and continued playing pool. Time skip shopping center. We can see 5 beautiful women walking in the mall where they called attention for their beauty, along with the clothes they were wearing, since they were prominent and showed off some of their curves, my goodness. And starting with a beautiful and sensual Momo who was wearing a black skirt accompanied by a white blouse and a small ribbon around her neck and was tied in a bow shape and was wearing sandals, black sneakers, and her hair was tied in a ponytail with a black and white ribbon. So then we move on to a hexy brown-haired girl who sometimes, in the way she behaves with our protagonist, you could say she's a closet pervert, but the best of all is that she had unique beauty. She was wearing small black and white striped shorts, a blue blouse, a black sweater and black sandals sneakers, and of course, her hair was tied in a ponytail and had a blue ribbon as decoration and a blue headband. And so on to the next one, which would be the tender and pure Asia, who was wearing something elegant, which would be a white blouse with a light brown coat and a brown skirt, along with some short white socks and some sneakers with a good design, and as accessories a beret and a bag. So going on with Kiryu, my goodness, she was wearing a set of clothes that fit her very well and that adjusted to her body, in addition to the fact that she fixed her hair, where the set of clothes consisted of a white blouse that now fit her chest that had grown, which was accompanied by a beige jacket. In addition to wearing a blue skirt with a design I don't know what it is, but we'll leave it that they are flowers of flowers and wearing sneakers of the same color as the jacket. And so going on with the last one, which would be the dear and beautiful and one of my favorites Ravel Phoenix, who instead of using her dress that she used in the underworld, was using a set of clothes that really made her look more beautiful than she already looked before. The outfit consisted of a black skirt with straps, while underneath it, she was wearing a white blouse that made her breasts stand out, but the small white bow tie she was wearing managed to hide them, in addition to wearing black stockings that had a clasp that made her legs stand out, and for this she was wearing small black sneakers. Ravel. I still can't believe that I decided to wear these clothes while walking with the others. Yeah. Oh, what are you saying, Ravel? You look really beautiful like that. Besides, I think Ice would like to see you while putting on a smile. When Ravel heard that he only had a little blush and was looking away, but it was reflected in the glass of the stores. Asia. But don't you think we went overboard by buying too many clothes with Issei-sen's card? When she said that, everyone stopped walking and thought until everyone in unison except Asia said no and continued walking, but not everyone continued walking because they lacked Ravel. Where she was in front of a store looking through the window where she did not pay attention to what was happening around her until someone caught her attention. When she saw who it was a group of 5 kids like those who think they are really bad and then tell you that you don't know who you're messing with, where a black-haired man who seemed to be the leader of the gang approached her. Hey, hello beautiful, wouldn't you like to join us? You'll have a good time with us. Well, he cornered her with a display case and put one arm on the display case. Ravel. TCH, I'm sorry, but I think you're wasting your time while trying to get out of there. Will putting his other arm so it wouldn't come out. I don't think so. I assure you that you will have a better time with us than anyone else, so go on and accept. Ravel. I'm sorry, but I don't intend to lower myself to a low-class, simple, dirty commoner like you, so if you'll allow me. As he walked out of there. Where do you think you're going? While grabbing her by the arm, you think you're someone important, but I don't think that will work with us. Besides, you'll come with us even if you don't want to, while starting to pull Ravel. Ravel. Let me go, you dirty commoner, while trying to get away, but it was in vain. He could not overcome his strength. Ugh, don't bother me and complicate things further. You'll come with us, and that's it. While he turned to look at her with a perverted face, you'll be mine, while he licked his lips so perverted. Ravel was overcome with fear when she saw this and could only think about someone helping her, but the strange thing for her was that none of the civilians who were there tried to help her. Until they took her to an alley where there was no exit, where the leader told his group to cover the entrance, where he took Ravel to the bottom. Once there, he threw her to the ground and quickly positioned himself on top of her, grabbing both of her hands so that she wouldn't try to get away or anything. Where he approached Ravel's neck and breathed in the aroma it gave off and began to slowly approach with his tongue to lick it, where there was a Ravel who closed her eyes upon seeing that, and because of how she was, where she continued asking for help from her mind as she saw how he approached her neck. Issei. What a place you brought her to, but above all, how disgusting you are to put your hands on her. Upon hearing that, the leader moved away from his neck to look for where that voice came from, until he found an attractive black-haired man who had a suit that consisted of a gray shirt with a purple dress vest, as well as dress pants and black shoes. Ravel, upon hearing and recognizing the voice about who it was, his heart began to beat and he opened his eyes to look for him, finding him sitting in a garbage container. Well, he looked at the leader with a look that promised something or a lot of pain or more than pain. Ravel. Issei-sama. When she called him by his name, the leader just smiled and let go, where Ravel quickly got up and approached our protagonist, who got down when he saw Ravel approaching, where Ravel threw himself to hug him and began to thank him. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Issei-sama, while saying everything in a mocking tone, although it will also be the last time we see each other. Issei. Yes, you're right. While he separated from Ravel and the others of the black-haired group arrived, so let's dance, while putting on a smile that disturbed the 5 of them. Where he quickly created a barrier around the alley, but leaving Ravel out, the group seemed not to notice the barrier, so they quickly launched themselves against Issei, who was just waiting for them. Once he saw the first one arrive and throw a punch at his face, he dodged it, where he quickly hit him in the stomach, making him shudder in pain, where Is quickly grabbed his head and slammed it to the ground. So that later another one arrived that was going to hit him in the stomach, where our protagonist stepped back to dodge it and kicked him in the legs, making him fall, where Issei kicked him on the ground, leaving him unconscious. The third one arrived with a knife, where he tried to stab him, but he stopped it by grabbing his hand where he had the knife. Our protagonist took advantage of that and broke his arm, making him scream in pain, where Issei took advantage of that and made him crash into the wall, causing a small crack with his head. Where the leader saw more and more horrified what he was seeing, standing still, while the last of his henchmen began to run to escape, Issei seeing that disappeared in a blur of speed. But the leader only heard a scream of agony where he began to slowly turn his head from where the scream originated, meeting his henchmen crossing their heads through a garbage container, causing him more terror. So that our protagonist quickly appeared in front of him where he could now be seen with emerald eyes shining brightly where for the leader everything began to darken, but except for Issei's eyes. Where a loud scream was heard throughout the alley but Issei had silenced the barrier. After that loud and heartbreaking scream, we can see our protagonist loading a revolver until it was ready and shot each of the corpses that when shot began to disintegrate, now leaving small blood stains. When I finished doing that I removed the barrier leaving the alley now clean as if nothing had happened, where Ravel approached. Issei. Are you okay? They didn't do anything to you, right? Ravel. No, you arrived just in time, but thank you Isama for saving me while bowing. Issei. I couldn't let something happen to you while putting his hand on top of Ravel's head who raised her gaze to him. I made a promise to your mother to protect you with my life, so I'm not going to make it easy for anyone while giving her a smile that made her blush. Issei. Well, we're going Ravel-chan while he extended his arm to her which she accepted, thus taking the road home by the way, you look beautiful. Causing a strong blush on her that only turned to the side and thus left the alley with the sun beginning to set. 3 new students at the academy. A new day begins in Kuo City and a day after what happened with Ravel and her salvation by our beloved protagonist, but let's focus on the Hyoudou residence, more specifically on our protagonist's room. Where we find a scene that I really don't know what's happening since there was a queen on top of Issei kissing him with passion and desire, while our protagonist played along as well as having his hands on Rya's round, fleshy, and shaped butt and kneading it and caressing it. Where Rya, feeling such touch in the caresses he gave her, could only moan for short periods of time while they continued kissing, so that our protagonist quickly changed position, now finding himself on top of Rya while they continued kissing. While Issei took advantage of that so while they continued kissing, he began to unbutton the shirt that Rya was wearing, button by button, where you could see the sensual and exciting figure that Rya had, where she had a bra that covered her breasts. Where he only had one button left to unbutton to take off his shirt and continue with the bra, but he was interrupted by a knock on the door. Asia. Is Isay awake? Well his voice was heard behind the door. Issei. Virga well separating from Rya yes Asia I'm awake. Asia. Oh well, I hope Isay comes down soon so we can have breakfast and go to the academy. Issei. Yes, I'll be down soon, just let me get ready and thanks Asia while getting out of bed. Asia. Well, I'll leave you so you can get ready, Issei-san, while his footsteps could be heard moving away. Issei. It's a good thing I didn't come in while he turned to look at Rya, it's good that he was met with an annoyed look and of course a blush calmed down, everything in due time, also what a good way to wake up, while he gave her a smile and winked at her. That Rya seeing that only blushed more, looking like a tomato, so that she just turned around covering herself in the act so as not to see him, where Issei could only smile at how she acts. Issei. Well, I think you'll stay like this for a while, so I'll take a shower, but if you'd like to join me I have no problem while walking to the bathroom. Leaving a queen having an internal battle about whether to enter or let that opportunity pass, where she found herself saying no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, while shaking her head from side to side and blushing. So having a great time where she didn't notice besides deciding yes or no, but our protagonist came out of the bathroom with the uniform of the academy, where he was wearing a purple dress vester suit and a black tie, in addition to having his sleeves rolled up, in addition to wearing a gold watch on his left hand. Issei. Well, I'll go down to breakfast. I'll wait for you downstairs as he approached her and gave her a kiss on the cheek and left the room. Leaving a queen who when she heard the door close reacted with what just happened and the only thing she did was pat herself on the head saying to herself fool, you had your chance and you wasted it, while she had an aura of depression around her and she made herself a little ball with the blanket. And she rocked back and forth in bed, repeating silly or stupid to herself over and over again until she lost control and rolled to the edge, causing her to fall face first off the bed. While in another place we can see our protagonist in the large dining room that was in the kitchen sitting while he arrived with a plate of food, leaving it in front of him along with some cutlery. In addition, Kiryu, Momo, Ravel and Asia were also sitting at the table, where Momo and Kiryu were wearing the academy uniform and strangely Asia was also wearing it. Asia. Isay is sure that he should go to the academy from now on, while taking a bite of his food. Issei. Of course, there have been almost no fallen angel attacks or murders, and I also want you to finish your studies while taking a sip of his coffee. Asia. If you want that, then I have no problem, but how did you do it so that he could enter the academy without any problems while looking at him with doubt? Issei. Contacts while he shrugged and continued drinking his coffee, it was Sona who helped me get you in. Asia. Oh I see, but now Drake-sama will be left alone while turning to see a plate where a Drake was eating happily. Issei. Oh don't worry, now there is Ravel-chan to live with him while he sent a smile to Ravel, and she just looked away besides, I don't know if she wants to be with us at the academy, since she surely finished her studies in the underworld, right Ravel-chan? Ravel. That's right, Issei-sama, I finished my studies in the underworld, but if you want me to accompany you, I have no problem. Well she said all that in a tsundere way, which made Issei laugh when he saw that. Issei. Well then if you don't have a problem with that, I think it wouldn't hurt for you to learn how we study, so well you'll start studying tomorrow at the academy. When he said that, Rhea was just coming down, still having an aura of depression because of what happened a while ago while sitting at the table, while in Ravel's case, he was left with a face of what? And so everyone continued with their breakfast, although Rhea still had that aura of sadness and Ravel with her face of not understanding. Until everyone finished and Issei took all the dishes to the sink where Ravel offered to wash them so that she would not be late to go to the academy, where Issei seeing that about her, could only smile and caress her head and thank her while leaving the kitchen, leaving Ravel with a smile and a slight blush. While with Issei he was in the garage where all his vehicles were, where he was thinking about which one to take, but the others grabbed what they liked the most, Rhea and Momo the Bugatti Divo, Kiryu the BMW motorcycle, and Issei decided on the Chevrolet Covert, where Asia got in with him, since she didn't know how to drive. So leaving the residence and heading towards the academy, leaving a Ravel with a drake that was floating with the fish. Guo Academy. We can see the three luxurious and expensive vehicles arriving at the academy where the students had already become accustomed to them, but were still surprised to see those cars parked there at the academy. Although both the girls and the boys were surprised to see who was coming in the Chevrolet, where there was a tender but pretty blonde-haired girl who now had a body with curves that with the uniform of the academy Mother Mia, but she was using a black vest as an accompaniment. Now moving on to our dark-haired protagonist who is desired and fantasized about by the girls, who upon seeing his new appearance as an emo avenger, had their hormones go even further to their heads, where some of them started screaming, and a few fainted and of course others had fantasies where he claimed them. But leaving that aside again, let's focus on the part of the parking lot where the vehicles parked once they turned off the engines and got out. They began to walk through the halls of the academy, where some girls watched them pass by, some of them were jealous of the girls who were around Issei, and more of the blonde-haired girl who had just arrived as she was standing next to Issei while holding his arm. And well they weren't the only ones since Momo and Rhea were the same, but not so much since they knew they could have Issei for themselves, although there was also a jealous Kiryu. Issei. Well Asia-chan, what classroom did you get? While turning to look at her side where she was. Asia. Ito while putting a finger on her chin thinking I don't know when she said that, she found herself with her tongue out and winking. Issei. Hahaha well, let's go with Sona so she can tell you which group you're in while heading to the student council. And so leaving the beautiful trio of girls who accompanied him behind who only watched as they walked away. Rhea. Well, since we're alone the three of us well Momo and she turned to see Kiryu and cornered her with a wall when are you going to tell her? Kiryu. Who while looking at them as if he didn't understand what was happening. Momo. Oh come on, we were in the same case as you so we know how you feel about Issei. Kiryu. What, not like you think, he's just a friend of mine while turning to look away and a small blush was noticeable, how do you think I'm going to feel something for him? Rhea. Hahaha oh then it wouldn't bother you at all to see us as he kisses us and tells us how much he loves us. Kiryu. Of course not, he's his partner so I shouldn't have feelings for him, while saying that with his gaze down. Momo. Oh then you wouldn't want to see his naked body and caress it, well he kisses you with great affection and in other cases with passion. Rhea. Or that he fulfills all your fantasies and makes you feel like the woman you are. Well Kiryu, just listening to what they were saying, could only continue looking down while clenching his fists a little. Momo. Or be with him without any problem of others saying something to you, tell me, wouldn't you like to have all that? Kiryu. Moo okay I admit it I like him, okay I like him, but I don't know if I should tell him, you know he has you guys, how good you are really something different than me, while lowering your head, besides I don't know if he would accept me. Rhea. Oh come on while grabbing her shoulder you're a good girl Laika. Momo. How beautiful, sensual, cunning, intelligent and powerful that Kiryu blushed a little when he heard that. Rhea. Yeah, well, tell him what you feel for him, who knows, maybe he also has feelings for you and accepts your feelings. Momo. That's right, when I told him I liked him he was hanging out with Rhea. Rhea. Yes, and we are not selfish, well, just something, but we can share while approaching her ear or who knows, maybe do something else together. That Kiryu when he heard that could only imagine several things about her with Issei and Rhea, that they were good things and very good things that were very good, very good, super good. Kiryu. Well, then how do I tell him or when do I tell him or something, but I really want to tell him how I feel. Yeah. I don't know, you tell me while looking at her not true haha, well then when you see the right moment and when you feel that it is the right moment, well I'll just tell you that so let's go we have classes. And so the three of them made their way to their classrooms where Kiryu was alone lost in her thoughts about when to tell her feelings to our dear protagonist. While that was happening over there on the other side of the academy, more specifically in front of the student council, was our beloved protagonist, accompanied by a beautiful and hexy nun or rather, ex-nun. Where once they were there Issei knocked on the door where he waited for a pass until they received it, when they entered they met Sona and Tsubaki who were having tea. When they entered, Asia was still holding on to his arm, which made her almost jealous when she saw that, but Tsubaki, well, did get jealous, but she tried to hide it. Issei. Good morning So-chan, Suki-chan while separating from Asia and approaching Sona, you seriously look beautiful now with long hair along with your beautiful glasses, while caressing Sona's cheek that she only blushed. Issei. But well, trying to put aside your beauty, I wanted to know which group Asia-chan was in, if it's not too much trouble So-chan. Sona. Oh that's right, I didn't tell her, well you are assigned to the same group as Ice-kun, but I wanted to tell you Ice that when we were training 3 new students entered, 2 of them are in your same group and 1 is in Kaneko's group. Issei. And those would be when he said that Sona gave him a folder with the information of the new ones. Sona. The first one is called Stella Vermilion, I investigated her and discovered that she is an A-rank magic knight, although for us it is that she has sacred gear, but they call it device, and her device is called Levitine. Issei. It's too good while looking at the photo in more detail, although it looks more like Aria's but more beautiful, and I think more of. Sona. The second is Shizuku Kurigane belonging to the Kurigane family, her device is called Yoishiger, where she can do attacks with water and ice type elements. Issei. Another one that also looks cute, although she looks like a Kaneko, but with expressions but well, interesting I think her grandfather is Ryoma Kurigane. Sona. Oh well, moving on to the last one, who is Issei Itsuji. Her father is Kaido Itsuji, and her device is called Hizum. Issei. Really interesting, tell me if Rias has tried to reincarnate them or if you tried. Sona. I don't think so since they were just watching them to see what they were planning, but something surprised me and I liked it was the uniform they have, it has a really good style. Issei. Oh you're right it's very good and I also like the touch of the ribbons they have on the back of the lower back, but hey, there's no problem reincarnating them, right? Sona. Ah it's true that you have an entourage now, well I have no problem with that, but who knows if I'll let you laugh. Issei. I think so, after all, if she doesn't let me, I'll subdue her so she accepts while putting on a smile imagining it, or I wanted to ask you something, Sona. Sona. And that would be it while looking at him curiously for what he was going to say. Issei. I want to create a club, in the back by the Occult Club building, I will obviously make a building there. Sona. Well, there's no problem with that and tell me what your club is going to be. Issei. It will be about the different mythologies that exist in the world and a little more in depth about universal history, but well, I'll leave them since classes are about to start while he approached Sona and gave her a small kiss on the lips and gave a quick one to Tsubaki on the cheek. And so leaving the student council leaving the dear president and vice president blushing where for Issei they only became more beautiful and fun, although next to him was an Asia who was a little jealous. Where they arrived just in time to the classroom where the teacher was also about to enter, but she managed to see them where the teacher asked Asia if she was the new student where she said yes, then the teacher told her to wait until she called her to introduce her to the others. Thus entering Issei and the teacher, Issei could see the new students talking calmly, where our protagonist only limited himself to going to his place once there, the teacher told them that there was a new student. That the male students upon hearing that could only act like simple animals in heat, where for Issei it was a nuisance that all the men in his class did that, but especially 2 students who were the perverted duo. They were beasts of lust, disgusting monsters that harassed their companions too much, but let's leave that aside. Let's focus on Asia, who had entered the room, and as soon as we entered there were several people who were drooling, while the girls just watched how the boys behaved. Asia. Nice to meet you, I'm Asia Argentinian while bowing I hope to get along with you. Teacher. Well, someone would like to ask the new student a question when she said that, all the men except Issei raised their hands and a few women, while the teacher seeing that from inside was telling herself that I shouldn't have done that. And so, seeing who she could choose, since the teacher also found it annoying the behavior of some people choosing one here and there. Student. Do you have a boyfriend? While saying it with a nervous tone, Asia was left thinking when she heard that. Asia. No, I don't have a boyfriend some students were happy to hear that, but there is someone I like. When he said that, what happened was that something was heard breaking, drawing everyone's attention, while several students lowered their heads. Teacher. Oh, I'm sorry, how clumsy I was to drop my coffee cup while I picked up the pieces and threw them in a trash can. Well, continue with the questions. Student. We can find out who that person you like is. Asia. Well, she took a quick look at our protagonist and then looked at the floor. No, I still haven't told him that I like him. Teacher. Okay, enough with the questions. I think you're already asking things that aren't right. Well, Asia, you can sit over there, while pointing to a place that was close to Kiryu. And so the classes began, where Asia took a seat next to Kiryu, although our protagonist only limited himself to taking a look at the students that Sona had told him about, seeing that they were as if nothing was happening, talking calmly. Where Stella realized that our protagonist was watching them, where she gave it less importance and paid attention to the teacher who was starting the class, which for our protagonist, well for him, was like nap time. Where the only thing he did was sit at his desk and close his eyes, while Asia saw that and was going to do something about it, but Kiryu told her not to do anything. In the end, she always does that. Asia, upon hearing that, just stayed with the intention and turned around to take her class, leaving our protagonist asleep. After a while of class, where there was a fight of participations between Stella and Asia in the history class along with other subjects. There was only an hour left before classes ended and break began, and at that moment Stella had realized that our protagonist was still sleeping on his desk. For Stella, it seemed offensive that he was sleeping in the middle of a class, but what surprised her the most was that the teacher didn't care that he was sleeping, or that his classmates didn't even say anything to him. Stella. Excuse me, Professor, while raising her hand as if she had a doubt. Teacher. Yes, Stella. What's happening? While looking at her, stopping an explanation, and all the students turned to look at Stella. Stella. Why don't you wake up or do something against my classmate Hyoudou, who is sleeping in the middle of his class, or make him solve an exercise? When he said that, the only thing the teacher did was say, "Oh shit, not again," while the other classmates just turned to look away in shame and embarrassment, where they were heard saying, "Shit, seriously again?" Or "Yes, Issei senpai will teach the class again." Teacher. Will approaching our protagonist Hyoudou-kun while moving him slightly, causing him to slowly wake up. Issei. Well, stretching and yawning at the same time. Yes, it happens, Professor. Teacher. Hey, why don't you go wet your face and come back? Issei. Well, looking at his watch, where there was only 1 hour left for rest, and noticing how nervous he was. Okay, yes, teacher. While he got up from his seat and approached the teacher to whisper, "Well, the same as always, you know." Teacher. Oh sure, of course. Where now something relaxed was heard. And so leaving the classroom, leaving behind some disappointed girls and a calmer teacher and a slightly annoyed Stella, instead with our protagonist, of course, who didn't go to get his face wet but headed towards the student council. After a while of walking, he found himself right in front of the student council room, where he knocked on the door waiting for a pass until he received it, and so he entered. Upon entering, he could see that only the beautiful student council president was there, who was also his fiancée and one of his partners. Issei. Hello, So-chan, while waving with a raised hand, came to see what you were doing and also hang out with you. Sona. It's not that you've made your deals with the teachers again, right? While looking at him seriously. Issei. It's just the first one I do again on my return while sitting on top of the desk. Sona. Even so, you always go around giving classes instead of your teachers, and some of them find it annoying that you do it. Issei. But that's what my deals are for. I don't bother their class if they don't bother me. A reasonable price, right? Sona. No, while looking at him seriously and a little annoyed. Issei. Oh come on, while approaching her, tell me that you don't enjoy it when I come back and we're alone, while taking her chin. Besides, I'd like to keep tasting your beautiful lips that you have. Tell me, don't you want to either? Sona. And no, it's not that, while trying to control her breathing. I just that, what if they see us? Issei. Calm down, I locked the door so we have some time for the two of us, while he was slowly approaching her. Sona. A while she closed her eyes and was guided by Issei. Until finally they gave each other a kiss, where it was a tender kiss where they expressed the affection they had for each other, as if they were two boys in love who had no desire for the other, until they separated. Issei. I really love you, Sona, and I will never tire of telling you. While the two looked at each other. Sona. I swear. She approached him to kiss him again, where she got up from her chair and intertwined her arms around Issei's neck to deepen the kiss. Where Issei only put his hands on Sona's waist while they continued the kiss as if they never wanted to separate, enjoying the warmth that each one gave off. Until after a while they stopped kissing and were now just hugging, where for our protagonist only one song came to mind, which was "Glory As You." So once they were like that, it occurred to him to sing it to her. Sona, upon hearing the song that Issei had just sung to her, could only smile and continue hugging him, as if she never wanted to let go, which for our protagonist meant that he liked the song, so he could only tighten his hug a little and rest his chin on Sona's head, enjoying the moment. And so the two of them remained hugging each other for a long time, and they would have stayed that way, but unfortunately there was a knock on the door. Tsubaki. Madam President, are you there? While knocking on the door again, Madam President. Issei. Shit, not again. While Sona separated from him with a big blush. I better go, I need to do some things. While he approached Sona and gave her a kiss on the lips. Well, goodbye. And so he went to the door, unlocked it and opened it, finding Tsubaki surprised to see him there, where the only thing our protagonist did was grab her by the chin and give her a kiss on the cheek. Leaving a blushing Tsubaki for what she did and slowly leaving the student council, and one that sounds a little jealous, but nah, she knew that at any moment she could claim him, well, that is if Kiryu doesn't get ahead of her. Tsubaki. Hyoudou pre-president, what just happened? While looking at her king still with a noticeable blush. Sona. Don't say anything, I know you enjoyed it. While she sat in her chair, well, I'll tell them while she interlaced her hands and rested her chin on them Sasuke style. Leaving that aside, let's move on to Issei, who, after what happened, decided to spend time in the forest behind the academy. Once he was behind the academy and could see the forest, he decided to go into it looking for a place where the noise emanating from the academy could hardly be heard and where he could not be disturbed. After a while of looking for a good place and going into the forest, he found the perfect place, but he could notice that he was not the only one in that place, since he could see that a few meters ahead in an open space. Stella was found with a wooden practice sword, making movements like slashes with the sword, doing it with great elegance, although for our protagonist he wanted to avoid problems, so he only made a magic circle that surrounded him completely, making his presence and scent disappear. Once that was done, he just decided to silhouette himself in the grass and enjoy the wind that was gently hitting the leaves of the trees, making them dance slowly. And to make the moment better, he decided to take out his cell phone to put on some music to relax, connecting some headphones to have a better experience, putting on something that I have no words to express. And he stayed like that, enjoying the moment he had, where little by little sleep began to overcome him and he closed his eyes so that later he would fall asleep. Stella. Stupid stone. As she walked with a wooden sword and a stone in her hand, because of you I tripped as she threw it to the ground with force and continued walking. Issei. No way, that old lady went too far, dude. Well, he grabbed his private parts and started rolling from one side to the other, but I admit she has a good arm. Issei's haul, haha. Asia. Where will Issei-sen be? While looking everywhere looking for him, we have already started classes and he has not arrived yet, besides there are only 2 hours left until leaving. Kiryu. Calm down, Asia, he must be doing work in the student council or sleeping. Asia. What did you say, Aika-chan? Kiryu. Nothing, hahaha. Well, let's continue with the classes. While he turned to look at the blackboard. So after that, our protagonist entered as if it were his house, and the teacher who was giving the class let him in because he knew that he couldn't do anything against him. Issei. I apologize to you, professor, for interrupting your class, but I was helping the student council a little. Teacher. Oh yeah, don't worry, Hyoudou, please take your seat. Issei. Hi, as he walked without concern, although he had a certain limp. Once he was in place, there was a miracle where he decided not to fall asleep and this time pay attention to the class, which when his classmates realized this they were very surprised. But well, the teacher continued with the class, where after having explained the topic they were seeing, he decided to make a shower of participations where he was asking questions about the topic. Where Stella and Issei were the ones who raised their hands the most to participate, although suddenly Kiryu, Asia and Ayas participated, but for Stella, she was in for a big surprise when she saw that Hyoudou was not just a pretty face or a jerk. At Issei sometimes when he took a share from Stella, would turn to look at her and wink at her, causing Stella to become annoyed as well as blush slightly. And continuing like this with the class and with the others that were left over, where for Stella it was annoying, but for Issei it was boring, although the only good thing was bothering Stella. Until classes ended, the last teacher who taught them gathered his things and left the classroom, where the students also did the same thing, packing up their things and leaving with their friends. Stella. I see that you are not one to judge at first sight, let me introduce myself, I am Stella Vermilion, nice to meet you, Hyoudou. Issei. The pleasure is mine, Miss Vermilion and Atsuji, I hope we get along, so you can call me Issei, while bowing, and Atsuji also did the same as a greeting. Stella. I hope so, Hyoudou. Well, we're leaving, we have things to do, thus walking out of the room, leaving only Issei, Asia and Kiryu. Issei. Well, at least I already have what I got, while putting on a smile. Kiryu. And that would be it, while looking at him with doubt. Issei. Oh, so to speak, put a tracking magic circle on it. Asia. Seriously, how did you sneak it in without laying a hand on her, Ai-san? Issei. Well, it was easy, I placed it on the ground where she ended up stepping on it and the tracker was finally placed, but well, it's cute since I'm hungry. So the three of them left the classroom and headed to the school parking lot to go home. On the way there they met the others once each one got into a vehicle, but when Kiryu was going to get on the motorcycle Issei stopped her. Issei. I want to ask you a favor Ika-chan, since I'm going to solve other things, I want you to take the car I came in, and I'll take the motorcycle, is that okay with you? Kiryu. I don't see any problem with it while grabbing his briefcase. Issei. Seriously, thank you while giving her a hug and a kiss on the cheek by the way, tell the others that I will take care of some things before returning. Kiryu. At your service hahaha while she was blushing and Issei gave her the keys and she headed towards the car. Once everything was resolved, Issei decided to surround himself and the motorcycle with a magic circle so that they would not notice his presence or the noise of the motorcycle. Once that was done, Issei decided to turn it on and start heading off, leaving the others to get ready and start the cars and then accelerate and head towards Issei's house. But let's focus on our protagonist who took a quick look at the magic radar that was in his left hand while he continued driving, seeing that he was close to Stella because of the radar that he put on her until they entered a street where they stopped. Issei seeing this decided to accelerate more to see what was happening. We found ourselves in an alley where Stella, Ayase and Shizuku were crossing until certain guys with arrogant looks came out. There were 8 people in total, who seemed like a gang or well not so much since they didn't dress like cholos, but rather wore coats like any pedophile rapist. Well look what we have here, I think we hit the lottery guys while they all surrounded them, but what are some beautiful girls doing here without company, do they want us to accompany them? Of course, we don't bite, well not all of us, but they will have a good time and a very good time while he licked his lips when he saw Stella's butt. Stella. How disgusting while looking at them with disgust. Shizuku. This time I agree with you while having a face of disgust and displeasure, and even more so knowing that they are dirty fallen angels like renegade priests. Wow you realized, I guess you're not normal right while putting on a sinister smile. The 3 of them, seeing that, only stood on guard for any movement they made. Then that's a yes hahaha, I think we'll have a better time now, right boys while he looked at them with a look full of perversion hahaha, I will enjoy every inch of you and every scream you give, while he took out a sort of pain and even of pleasure, while he began to slowly lick his sword. When he said that, the 3 of them quickly summoned their sacred gear device and put themselves on guard. By doing so, half of them launched an attack with swords, while the other 4 took out their pair of wings and took flight where they created a barrier so as not to have interruptions. Where the 3 blocked an attack from them, but one of them tried to attack Shizuku from behind but was stopped by Stella, who gave him a quick slash that he ended up dodging, where Stella quickly launched herself into the attack starting to throw slashes that some were blocked by the priest and others achieved their goal. For Ayase it got a little complicated when she saw that 2 of them launched themselves against her to attack her, throwing slashes from one side and another, which made it a little difficult for Ayase to dodge. Shizuku attacked with her dagger and with magic where she then ended up injuring the priest until he decided to block one of her attacks and saw an opening in her defense and took advantage of that to counterattack where Shizuku blocked the priest's attacks with difficulty. But let's move on to Stella, who was achieving her goal of harming the priest where she was about to make a final attack on his chest but was stopped by a spear of light that ended up stuck in her left arm, causing her great pain. And she was not the only one who was injured since Ayase had several wounds on her arm, but there was one on her side where she was bleeding, where she was holding her wound trying to stop the bleeding. But let's move on to Shizuku who kept blocking the priest's attacks until she accidentally tripped and fell to the ground where the priest, seeing that, wanted to give the final attack, where he prepared himself with his sword to bury it in his chest. Shizuku, seeing that, could only close her eyes waiting for the attack. Which by the way never came since a shot was heard. Shizuku not feeling anything decided to open her eyes. When she opened them, she found the scene of the priest who was going to kill her dead on the ground with a shot in the head, but Shizuku realized that there was a fog that was beginning to get thicker and more noticeable, but it was a fog created with magic. But then 2 more shots were heard, and the 2 priests who were attacking Ayase were shot in the head. The priest who was attacking Stella upon hearing that panicked and quickly decided to end this, launching a final attack to kill Stella. By the way, that attack didn't come either, as a clash of swords was heard and quickly a shot that hit the priest in the head, falling dead, although Stella could only see a shadow that quickly disappeared, although she could see on the ground a bullet casing that disappeared into red particles. All the fallen angels, upon hearing the gunshots and the screams that some of the priests gave before dying, only became more alert, in addition to panicking, turning to look everywhere, and although they could hardly see anything with the fog that was there. So that later a shot was heard like a cry of pain from the fallen angels who received the shot in one of their wings, making them fall like a dead bird to the ground, which fell near Ayase. She was a little surprised by that, so she continued watching, where the fallen angel tried to get up from the ground, but she saw how a man quickly appeared and stuck a sword in his body, killing him instantly and thus disappearing again in a blur of speed that was helped by the mist that was there. Now there were only 4 fallen angels, whose blood pressure was increasing as their heartbeats became faster and their breathing became labored, where each one made a spear of light appear in their hand to attack. Watching carefully for any movement, a cry of pain and agony was heard from one of them. Upon hearing that, they quickly turned around from where they came, meeting a human silhouette that was made of a darker mist. He was stabbing one of them with a type of knife that was on his wrist, which the silhouette quickly took advantage of and used the fallen angel as a human shield, taking out a revolver pistol and shooting 2 of them in the head. Dropping the one he was using as a shield and taking advantage to grab the last remaining fallen angel by the face to fly with him to the ground quickly, where upon arriving only a loud cry of pain was heard like stone breaking. In addition, one of them fell into the trash can and another into the trash container, but the latter was closed, so it fell into it, making a dent in it, and the other one fell headfirst onto the pavement, bleeding more, even though he was already dead. Although let's focus on Stella, Shizuku and Ace, who didn't know what just happened, where little by little the mist disappeared, but before that the bodies were burning until only ashes remained. Until the fog disappeared like the barrier. When the fog was no longer there, the 3 of them could realize that the bodies of the fallen angels were not there either, like blood stains or the dent in the garbage container. As if it were all a dream. Well, not so much, since Stella and Ace were still injured, but well, they were surprised and alarmed at the same time when they saw that where they were injured a green aura appeared and they realized that they were being healed since they did not feel as much pain as before. At once that green aura disappeared, Stella and Ace no longer had any wounds or scars, so they could now move without problems. Stella. Well, I don't know what just happened, but I'm grateful to the one who just saved us. Shizuko. You're right, although I would like to meet the one who saved us to thank him, but the good thing is that we know he's not a demon. Ace. You noticed, right? While receiving a nod from Shizuku. Stella. Noticed that, tell me, while standing in front of Shizuku. Shizuku. What do you want, busty cow? Stella. What did you say, ironing board? And so began an argument between Shizuku and Stella, where Ace could only watch as those 2 fought. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.